Fuck yeah. And we're up.
Hey, good evening, everybody. We're back again with our intrepid soldiers who have found themselves on the surface of Mars, known as Barsoom by the locals. When we left them, they had been battling a great warship from Zidanga that had surprised them. They had been baited out into out into the wilderness, effectively, by the reports of a smaller airship. Once they found it and took out the remaining crew there, which was barely a skeleton crew, they were ambushed by a much larger warship and had to take cover and were fired upon. Through various heroic acts, including Fergal effectively jumping off of one of his air vehicles and landing on top of the command deck to pry the hatch open with his bare hands, and with Hawkins doing a daring leap from the ground up to the deck of this thing to try to sweep the deck and such, and then unfortunately falling to the ground because of some things. They're able to take the ship. Slightly somewhat assisted by a surprise heliumite dreadnought that unloaded a broadside into this ship. It did also happen to be the reason why Hawkins fell almost 50 feet and survived. Afterwards, the heliumites landed because the Zidanga ship began limping away. It was quite heavily damaged, it seemed, but still barely airworthy. The heliumites stopped to render assistance. They took our band of soldiers and their followers on board their ship to continue the pursuit as they have decided to retrieve Fergal's ship. So, because Fergal slew the captain. So the way he slew the captain was he stabbed him through the heart with his knife, not realizing his own strength, drove his entire arm through the torso, out the front of the ship, and fell himself 50 feet, but being slightly more agile apparently than Hawkins, landed on his feet. So as we join our group, the wind whistling through the deck of this heliumite warship, we see our three people out front looking across the deserts of Barsoom. Their followers arrayed behind them in different areas as this pursuit begins. They stare off across the flat former ocean bed to a smoking blue bedecked ship that they are finally coming into range to begin firing long range rounds into. Since we're doing this for Fergal, let's start with Fergal tonight. What do we see of Fergal, and what is he thinking currently?
Fergal is currently leaned up against the railing, and he is going between looking to the ship and then pacing back to make sure that the guns are loaded, coming back and then sort of stopping and being lost in his thoughts for a moment. And he kind of looks up to his men and then looks over to Terry. And then he kind of looks at the commander of this ship, and then he just sits and looks, and then he goes back to the railing and grips it again. And what's going through his mind as he's looking is that he's kind of considering, is he ready for this? He's looking at all this situation that he's gotten himself into, and he can still taste the bile in his mouth, and he wonders if that's fresh or just remnants of what was when he was vomiting. But his grand did not raise a quitter, so he was taught that no matter what it was, you need to see this through. So that's him standing at the railing, hearing her in his head, "You'll see this through." And he grips the railing and just sort of reaches over and positions his gear and tries to make himself presentable. Because no matter what happens, he's going to have a ship.
Well done there, well done there. Beside him, we see the striking figure of Hawkins, currently actually has been given a crutch of Martian make, helping him to stand. He's a bit battered and bruised, but no new injuries that we can see on the exterior, other than what he had received before. In fact, it seems that Hawkins is, well, looking a little more spry than one who's fallen 50 feet should be feeling. So how does Hawkins feel?
He feels a bit grumpy that he's not going to be going into this at full strength, but determined to prove that he can do this. He can fight alongside those that he's gotten rather close to. And a little nervous that we're still fighting this. Cautious, because we're down to 2/3 of our company strength. Is this going to be enough?
All right. And our leader, Sergeant Terrence Hawthorne, as the wind whips through his hair, a few bits of stray strands blowing across his face out of the ponytail and the braid he seems to keep on Mars. What do we see in his mind?
Sergeant Hawthorne is he's looking over the situation from the command deck. He is standing a good 6 or 8 feet behind his men. When Fergal looks back to catch his eye, he'll just smirk and give the newly promoted corporal a firm and knowing nod, and a look that Fergal will know. It's a look that Terry's given him a handful of times in their travels together. It's a look of, you got this. If you need anything, I'm back here, but you got this. Terry will notice that his right hand trembles ever so slightly, and he'll kind of glare at the absence in his back pocket where he normally kept his cigarettes. But now that he's fresh out, he can't calm his nerves at this time. But nevertheless, he is very proud of his lads. Very proud. They're quite literally the toughest lads that he's ever come to know. He's ever had the pleasure of traveling with and seeing over and leading. He looks back to his Red Martian fighters behind him, and the 5 of them from different walks of life, in and outside of Beltan proper. They're quite literally a group of Red Martian bulldogs ready to be let off their chain. And he looks to the commander of this deck, see if he catches his eyes. And
the captain of the ship, who has, by the way, at this point has introduced himself to you. His name is Captain Karen Khan. A striking man of Red Martian stock. He wears his red helium harness with a bit of a swagger. Somewhat reminds you of, say, an idea of like some swashbuckling type mentality of this fellow. The saber he wears is actually, the design looks similar to what you've seen, Men of the Sea back on Earth wear, but it's obviously of Martian make. He actually wears a scarf around his neck, loosely tied, that flutters off to one side in the air, and has some kind of device that you're able to actually see on the end of it. He comes walking up and puts his hand on Fergal's shoulder, and he says, "So, you ready to take your ship there, young man?"
He kind of skips for a second. He says, "Yeah, yes."
Well, then give the order.
we firing
sort of
first?
Yes, he leans in. So, give the command to ready chase cannons.
Okay.
Says it very quietly, so it's obviously doesn't drift anybody else.
He kind of nods to the side and he turns around and he says, "Ready? The chase cannons!" And it just rolls out like just this thick Irish brogue, and he looks back thinking if they understood him.
The captain sort of looks over his shoulder and sort of nods, and there's a fellow back there that has no matter what planet you're on, there is a look of a senior non-com that this fellow just exudes. And he yells out, ready chase cannon, brace weapons, and stow excess, blah, blah. Starts yelling all these commands, and these soldiers start running back and forth with these big cannons that are rolled up on these basically tracks to the very front. These cannons have 4 barrels, something you have not seen before on a Martian warship. And you see them, they drop a shell into the chute off on one side, and they crank the gun around so another one lines up, and you guys hear a click and drop another shell into it, and they do this 4 times. And then the 5th time they drop a shell in and don't actually rotate. And then they start manipulating gears and levers and such, and the guns start moving just a bit as the gunnery commander is yelling out, 2 degrees left, 1 degree up, so forth and so on. And the non-com yells, remember, we're supposed to take the surprise, not send it to the seabed. And they're like, aye, sir. And,
be delicate.
Okay. And you hear almost simultaneously from each, guns ready. The captain holds his hand up, then looks over at McGuire and says, he sort of looks expectantly for you.
Yeah, and I'm actually leaning towards that ship, staring at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. He reaches
and
out.
Then I say, fire!
And with that, the first rounds head down range. The noise these things make isn't the same as artillery that you've heard before. It's more of it has almost a higher pitch sound to it. There's a spark, and then the shell leaves the barrel with almost no smoke at all, just sort of a bluish haze. You see one of the rounds falls just short and starts heading toward the ground. The other one actually hits the rear of one of the superstructures, actually what would be considered the starboard side from you guys' perspective. And the ship itself, actually, you see it sort of rock, and it says, and when the fellow yells, rotate, and they start cranking this gun around to hold the next barrel up to the top. And both
hold on a second. I'm gonna walk over like a strutting rooster to the gun that missed,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna say, bring it up a little. You know what I'm saying?
Aye, sir. Aye, sir. And the gun commander looks at his boys and says, bring her up 0.5 degree. Don't miss next time. We're the best in the helium fleet. Remember that.
And I step back and I put my hands on my hips for a second. And then I kind of grunt and I start walking back to the front where I was.
Okay. Next 2 rounds go down range again, and you see 2 good clean hits this time. One actually punches through the rear armor of one of the superstructures, and you see it literally go literally from the back to the front of this thing and explode against a forward gun. And with that round, you see there's a very large flag that flies atop this ship. It actually falls off. So, and you hear the gunnery crews cheer. And Captain Khan walks over to Fergal pats him on the shoulder, gives it a bit of a squeeze, like a very proud older fellow would do to, say, a young boy. And he says, "Aye, she struck her colors. She'll be heaving to momentarily. Do you want the crew for yourself, or would you like them to be thrown overboard?"
Corporal.
Is it normal to throw them overboard?
Well, it's up to you. I mean, there's no shame in it. But if you want captives,
Corporal, if I may make a suggestion.
Yes, please, sir.
Clap them in irons. They'll be useful later. But this is your ship.
I think that all but the officers will be clapped in irons, but I'd like to speak with the remaining captaincy.
noble of you. He looks over at Terrence and he says, "Does he do much?"
When I let him, I'll just wink at him.
And he sort of smiles, looks and says, "You'll probably in that case have to duel the commander of the ship for control. It's a tradition."
Fergal, take his head.
I can do that.
All right.
The little one or the big one?
Both, if you can.
It's obvious that a few moments later that the heliumite ship is definitely gaining ground now, as the Zidonian ship has come to almost a complete stop, hovering about 60 or so feet off of the hard pan below it. The actual heat radiating up off of this surface below you it's almost like being in an oven. And as you come to a stop above they actually come not exactly directly above, but off to one side. You can tell definitely this is a calculated location, because the lower guns on that side are pointed directly down at the Zidonian ship. Several men go to the rail, and actually some of your guys look up to you, and one of the Vars Tarkin, one of the Green Martians, looks up to Hawkins and says, "Can we help with the boarding? Please."
Yes, you can. The rules stay. Don't kill anything that is wearing our colors. If it's wearing the enemy colors, do whatever you want.
Aye, aye.
I'd like to ask if they're surrendering, just clap them in irons. Don't eat them.
I look at my green boys once Fergal turns back around and goes, "If they're surrendering," wink, wink.
Hawkins, you heard him right the first time.
Yeah. Vars Tarkin looks and says, "Aye," and he reaches over and he sort of punches Cull in the shoulder and says, "No killing for no reason." And
but if they attack you first,
and you sort of see Zint has he sort of shakes his head a little bit as if he's going, "Aw." And they go to the side, and these Martians have basically something you've probably seen this kind of stuff with the British. They had all kinds of attachments for the infields. They fire these grapnels down to attach to the ship below, and then they attach these rigs, which they attach to their harnesses, and they begin slowly, or not really slowly, but sliding down these lines in waves. You see the Green Martians actually just dive toward the line, and using all 6 limbs, just scamper down them like some kind of weird insect, actually hanging below them. They're actually almost as fast as the Martians with their descending rigs. So Captain Khan comes over and looks at that, and he says, "Thank all the gods of Barsum and Jasum that they don't like flying."
You're telling me, mate. You're telling me.
Okay. One of the boarders, the Marines, comes over to Fergal and says, "Here, let me get you rigged up." And he grabs your harness and starts attaching pieces to it. It's this basically attaches at 4 points and it has this contraption, box-like contraption that has it's like a couple of wheels inside that one above and one below, and it's open on one side. And he basically sort of ushers you over to one of these lines, and he said, "I'll be right behind you." And he grabs
What's
the line.
this for?
Just to put you over there. And he clips this thing onto the line and says, "Off you go." And he gives you a bit of a nudge from behind.
Can I just jump it?
Yeah, well, you probably could, but you're attached to the line. So if you jump, you're probably gonna just bounce up and down.
Okay. So I'm
basically a zip line that sends
Yeah,
you
it's
down.
basically a zip line. So this thing,
Right.
You go whizzing down this line. You hear one right behind you coming down as well. And it's the rig, because it's got attached to 4 points, keeps your feet pointing in the right direction. And when your feet hit the other deck, there's some fighting going on. Apparently, their Marines are trying to repel your guys, but they're being pushed back fairly quickly. So,
Keith, I'm gonna send in my 5 Marines with them.
okay.
I'm gonna turn to them and be like, "You lot head in there as well.
Aye, sir.
Take what glory you can."
They grin and head that way as well. So they attach themselves to the lines. And where's my okay.
Where is that Zidongan noble girl that we captured? Is she kind of locked up?
Yeah, she had been actually put in one of the. You had her sent to your cabin.
All right.
Before, and she is still there.
All right. I'm going to basically check the magazine on my Lewis, and
Okay.
I am not going to get down there on the ship with them, as this is Fergal's caper. But if anyone tries to escape, I will, in fact, strafe them from above.
Okay. All right. So you're going to be basically Overwatch.
Oh yeah. I'm simply backup. Fergal's got this.
Feeling kind of sheepish. Fergal is going to let out a big whistle and then just bring his arm up in the air like a circle.
Mhm.
He's trying to call the Flying Irish to him.
Okay. All right. You guys up on the ship actually hear the whining spin up of the little aircraft that Fergal's Flying Irish like to use, and they head over the edge of the ship down and actually go to the opposite side. So
Terry will kind of chuckle under his breath. "Go get him, boys."
Okay. So, and what's Hawkins going to do during all this?
He's going to grab his rifle, his trusty rifle, since he's not exactly fit to go over, and pick a good position to sit and shoot who he can.
All right.
For disabling shots, of course.
Well, of course. I mean, what other kinds of shots would you have? All right, shuffle that deck real quick.
I mean, look at who we're talking about here. I mean, come on.
Sharing my screen here real quick.
Does Baldric know any other shots?
Rafe, you need to allow screen sharing.
What?
Yep.
I have to allow it?
Yep.
No. Anyway, hang on. How do I allow you to do that?
Basically, go up to participants and make me host.
Well, shit. Participants.
Or just
where is participants? Oh, well, you said up. It's at the bottom of the screen here.
Oh yeah, sorry. May I have mine set automatically pops up above the chat. So,
well, to you, it doesn't want to actually.
It's probably because you're. You should be able to right click on my name then and allow sharing, or I can just tell you what I have.
Allow. Wait. Hang on. I'm gonna make you host now since I'm recording.
All right.
1, 2. Yes.
There we go. All right.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Here we go.
Apologies
So
for the
we're gonna
pause,
do
ladies
these
and gentlemen.
Sorry about that. A little technical difficulties occasionally. So here we go. We are starting out with, I'm going to go from, with my view of each individual. We have Sergeant Terrence Hawthorne on top, so he will be going with Queen of Diamonds. Next we have Corporal Baldric, which is a King of Spades. Then we're going to have Fergal McGuire, who's going to be going with Jack of Spades. The Zidonians on the ship will be going with Jack of Diamonds. So, because of that, we go in reverse order. Obviously, the King goes first, then the Queen, and then with the two Jacks, the Jack of Spades is higher in the alphabet than Diamonds, S over D. So that will be Fergal McGuire, and then the Zidonians get to make their action. So take it away there, Hawkins. I'll tell you what you're seeing down there is you're seeing this this melee up on the decks. It's surprisingly easy to tell the difference between the two because the blue and the red definitely clash. You do, looking for targets, you do happen to see one fellow who is fighting fairly deftly with his saber. And he seems to have injured a couple of red Martians, and you see a couple of your fellows heading that way towards him. So
I'm going to aim a shot at him.
all right.
And that is a 9.
That's one raise then, so roll your damage and add 1d6 to it.
$11.
You're talking to mute, Keith.
Sorry about that. I thought I hit the button earlier. So your shot doesn't actually kill him. It's going to probably disable the fellow. So tell us how this shot lands.
All right, well, this shot that I'm aiming for this guy, I thought I had a good bead, but he's very adept, and he dodges at the last moment, so it gets him in the shoulder pretty good. Unfortunately, not what I was aiming for. So unfortunately, what would have been a killing blow is only a disabling blow to the shoulder that's not wielding the saber.
Oh, okay. He, you do see the shot actually hits him and spins the fellow around and takes him to the deck. He does seem to feebly be attempting to get up, and you see a couple of red Martians go up and level blades at him, obviously telling him to surrender. And he rolls over and drops his weapon. Next, we have the Queen of Diamonds with Sergeant Terrence Hawthorne. You see a shot go off there for Hawkins, and you see there's a few places there where there are bands of decently organized Marines of the Zidonians. There's particularly one group that seems to have one, you're not sure if the fellow's a sergeant or an officer, but he seems to have a line of Marines in front of him that are actually doing fairly well.
Did I see Baldric's rifle bark, or can I just assume from the sound that it was him?
You could definitely hear that
okay.
that very specific sound
kind
of that,
like echoes through the
yes.
the dreadnought there that we're on.
Yes.
I'll whoop at him. Let him know that I approve of his good aim. Terry is going to drop and go prone, and I am going to try and use this improved hose him down. And I'm going to mag dump into that crowd until it's just bodies.
All right. So you begin firing. Of course, the sound echoes up and down the.
Fill this ship full of racket.
You actually cause the majority of the soldiers on the ship to stop and look.
They'll just see. Never mind. They won't see a muzzle flash. My Lewis has the muzzle cover.
Okay. Your shots go off and just start rending bodies of red-clad or no, sorry, blue-clad.
I don't want to shoot
Zidongans.
the heliumites.
I got it backwards. Blue-clad Zidongans. That group basically falls to the ground riddled with bullets. The rest of them sort of cower back in shock. And even the heliumite soldiers that are down there are sort of looking up, and you can't hear him over the gunshots. Fergal probably can barely hear this, but you actually hear off to the side. It looks to be probably Tan Cantos. Makes a big whoop and says, charges forward.
If anyone who is cowering, what I saw in my mind was that officer, that sergeant, and then a bunch of his lads in front of him.
Yes.
Like, how many people were in that mob?
There were about 7 of them, actually.
Okay.
But there were others they were making their way through the melee, trying to form up and actually, fight together. So when that group goes down.
Can I switch targets quick? Or say you switch to another mob?
You can basically strafe the entire deck if you want, and sort of fire above their heads if you'd like.
Nah, we're going for killing them.
Okay, but yeah, if to basically to switch targets, you're going to wind up possibly hitting your own people.
Oh well, then no, I'm not. Terry won't risk friendly fire at that point.
So that goes down to Corporal Fergal McGuire. You see the fear in these Doggin's eyes at the rounds coming in so fast over their heads, and that one group just literally just dissolving in blue Martian blood. So, what are you doing, sir?
So you said we can see the commander being protected by a group of Marines?
You can see a group of the commander that's basically on the main deck. There's a ramp up that goes to the sort of center part of the superstructure. If you look over at that worship there on Terrence's screen there, there is a ramp that goes from each side up into that command module in the middle. You can actually see up that ramp that the commander and possibly some of the officers are up there, and allowing the enlisted men basically to burn this attack. But with them sort of falling back in terror at what they're seeing, you have a clear shot. You can actually run up there or even jump if you'd like.
All right. So he actually he feels like he's on fire, but in a good way.
Okay.
There's tingling going through his hands and his goosebumps all down his arms as he just grips his rifle and pulls out his bayonet and fixes it. And it just takes a running jump, takes about a 5 to 10 foot running start, and then just leaps over, trying to land in front of the commander. That's
all right. Give me a it says an athletics, wouldn't it be?
Okay, so that's off of strength or agility?
It would be off of strength. Basically, it's a jump.
Right.
So,
it's one thing I didn't train in. I got climbing, but
probably didn't do much jumping before.
So I got a 7.
All right, you got a success. So you're able to leap that distance fairly easily. Are you trying to actually come down and actually plunge your bayonet into the fellow, or?
No, I want to land with, a little bit of show off, and
Panache.
And then I want to look at him and challenge him to the fight.
All right. You land there, and of course the soldiers sort of around this captain, acting captain actually, because you probably still have the blood of the original captain on your arm. They sort of flinch back at your leap, and at your challenge, their commander steps forward, and he pulls out his saber, and he says, He sort of looks around. I accept the challenge.
Question to the game master.
Yes.
Obviously, Terry's not there, but was that a question or was he telling Virgil that he?
Well, the way this is the whole idea of his voice sounds almost like he's hesitant.
Okay.
To do it. So
I think I accepted it.
I accept the challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
So, this is a fellow who's definitely he's not eager to cross blades with Virgil, especially after that great leap in the ruckus you just caused. So
can I see the trepidation or sense of trepidation?
Oh yeah, it's written large in his face.
Is it coming off of him like? Would he feel better hand to hand?
I mean, you're not 100% sure. He'd probably feel better if you just let it surrender, possibly. He does not seem too eager to fight you in general.
Do you kneel?
He looks back at the other officers there, and one of them sort of nods. And he basically takes his blade, holds it out, and breaks it over his knee.
Oh, well, that wasn't unnecessary, but I appreciate the sentiment.
Okay. At which point, the other officers start bellowing out orders to stand down, to drop their weapons. And you got those of you who can have a better view of the actual decks around, which you can see them from inside, but from the outside edge, there's where the melees are going on. These Adongans eagerly drop their weapons and fall to the ground. Only a few of them get slaughtered before before Bit Kistra reaches over to Kolpatar and grabs him and throws him against the rail and says, and everyone can hear him yell, "Stop it!"
Terry will let out a sigh of relief. He wasn't quite sure if we were going to make it out of there.
Yeah. So.
Baldric's going to whisper under his breath, "You didn't have to stop him."
Well, he was told to, if they surrender, don't kill them. It doesn't take very much longer. The rest of the Heliumite Marines go through, along with your people, and secure very important parts of the ship, like the tanks that allow the ship to actually float, the propulsion areas and things of that nature, the guns, obviously. Once they get these, all of the men below in chains, you see the commander of one of the Marines comes over to Virgil and says, "What do you want done with the officers?"
Bring them to me.
Okay. They walk over to the other side of the command area and sort of hustle them over to you. They come in a knot. One of them actually has a treated wound on his arm. Looks like he may have gotten shot, possibly earlier. Very possibly from those shots that got put into the in the command module when you guys first engaged it. Of course, the front view is the broken pane of glass is still gaping wide there, and one of the guy who was the captain looks at you and says, "What do you intend to do with us?"
It's appropriate to dine on them, right? I'm looking at who's the person with me.
Oh, that he's one of the Marines. You actually haven't gotten his name yet. He's possibly their NCO, possibly. He looks over at you and sort of with a shocked look, and he says, "Well, you do associate with Green Martians, and that's what they do pretty regularly. They usually kill them first." At which point you actually hear from down below someone bellow, "I've got my flensing knives."
And I just I wink at him and I'm saying, "No. What would you propose we do to you, with you?"
I can give you, upon my honor, that my men will not rebel against you if you treat us with the proper respect of a Zidongan noble from a foreign power.
I'll walk back to the command deck at this point.
Mhm. At this point, then it's probably the point where the Heliumite dreadnought has established an actual proper ramp, so you guys can move back and forth.
Are we? I'll look to the Captain Khan, and are we going to be towing this bird then?
I can have my engineers look it over and see if it's still airworthy.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
She's going to be spoils for the combat.
Okay. As so as that connection gets made with the ramp, several of the Heliumite engineers head on deck and start going and checking it over, checking the guidance over. There's a couple that go back to the propulsion and they check the tanks. At this point, the Marines have all of the soldiers up on the main decks, the superstructures, on their knees with their hands bound behind their back. Their weapons that they had have actually all been stacked toward the front of each of the superstructures. And each one of them has a Martian standing behind him, blade drawn. Even your guys' people are basically the same thing, except for Fergals are actually currently sort of flying around. They're making orbits of both ships, and as they pass by and they can see the superstructure, they each see the hoop and holler. So,
but they're also probably providing scout sort of.
Yeah, sort of keep making sure nobody else is coming to take your prize away from you.
So I look to the remaining crew. Then, are you all cowards?
You get some grumbling about that, and a couple of backs stiffen up.
Who's willing to fight for their ship?
They all look toward the commanders, and the commanders they're hanging their heads at this point in shame, obviously. Your Fred Marshals can blush. Actually, they can't. They're going slightly purple.
None of you? None of you will fight for the ship. I'm starting to shout to them.
You hear from the back, I'll fight.
Bring that man up here.
One of the Martians reaches down and grabs the hair of a figure that's sort of obscured from the others, and he hauls him to his feet. And this is probably the largest red Martian you have seen. He towers over 6 feet, closer to 6.5 feet. And he has the kinds of muscles that you remember seeing from some of the farm boys back home that would be tossing bales of wheat and hay all day long. It's not the kind of, well-defined, creasing muscles and such. This fellow is just big.
Terry will kind of look over at the big Zidonga, and then you'll kind of shoot a look over at Virgo. It's a little too much of that Irish porridge. I mean, guess you didn't have enough, did you,
Yeah.
Virgo? It probably stunted your growth. Otherwise, you'd be big as this giant.
In
Ugly Zidongan Fomorian is what he is.
You see a couple of your fellows up on the command deck. They clear it back, push everyone back, and give you guys a good wide open area. It's also a good place where pretty much everyone on the ship can actually see you, and they can see you pretty well up from the Heliumite ship too. And they take this fellow up to a point and take his manacles off of him. And one of the fellows yells at you, "Which weapon are you going to choose there, McGuire?"
We're going with fists.
There's a
That-
lad.
Yeah, there's some Birmingham fists. No blade, and big fella sort of smiles and cracks his knuckles. He seems very happy with this idea.
He stands but tall, Fergal. Take him out.
So at this point, my confidence is, and everything is feeding into it. He is riding the wave of the moment. His overconfidence is,
All right.
I don't know if it's going to get the better of me at this time, but so
Yeah.
he,
Okay. You guys square up, and there's no formal call to begin. The fellow just looks at you, and he gets into a fighting stance and goes to fight. Hold on real quick.
I just hold up my hand for a second,
Mhm.
like this, and I walk towards him,
Okay.
and I hold my hand out to him, and I say, I'm Fergal McGuire, Corporal.
He looks at you and he says, I am Moss Bale.
Moss Bale.
I have no title.
Well,
And he looks at your hand like he doesn't know what to do.
I take his hand and put it on mine like a warrior's handshake.
Okay. He gets at it, he shakes it back. He says, you honor me. As if it just dawned on that's what was going on.
Terry will he actually lean against the railing while he'll throw the machine gun over his shoulder on a sling, and go to Baldric. You mind if I bum a ciggy off of you, mate? You have any more?
Oh, yeah. Baldric pulls out an entire package.
I
From
snatched
his
that out of
medical
your hand.
pouch.
That's so. Is it new? It's not open?
Yes, new, unopened.
Terry's almost drooling there.
We keep these in case of emergencies.
This is an emergency. He'll screw that into the corner of his mouth and light up, and he'll Terry will kind of see where the wind current is, so he excuse me, I'll back up, and he'll actually holler over to the Captain Khan. Captain, permission to smoke on your deck.
He looks at you like, permission granted? Or
Thanks,
talk to
mate.
Fergal. Okay.
And he'll
Okay.
light up. He'll holler down to Fergal, and I say, Corporal McGuire, instruct that large lad in the use of the haymaker. He'll take a long drag off of his cigarette.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get through the share screen here and show as we do our initiative here real quick. I want to keep the same thing going here for us there. So for Fergal, we have a Queen of Spades. And for the big fellow Moss Vale there, we'll have a 9 of Diamonds. So Baldric is to go first.
All right. So I am going to go in with a feint,
Right.
and where I'm going to roll behind him, and I'm going to try the shot that I did with the Green Martian, but this time on this guy. But so with the feint, I'm performing a test with my fighting skill.
Okay.
Does this guy look like his smarts or agility are better?
Probably his smarts. Doesn't look very agile.
Okay, so it's going to be against his agility then.
Okay. All right. Make your roll there, mate.
So I'm going to spend a Benny to re-roll that. Did we start with 3?
Actually, start with 4 this time.
All right. Much better. So that's a 9.
All right. He falls for your feint. So
All right.
go ahead and make your attack. His parry is going to be basically he's surprised. So
Okay. Very good. I like this. Can I choose to take the other roll, or is it better if the 6 explodes and gets a 1?
It's
So I got an 8.
whichever's higher. Whichever's higher.
Okay. So I got an 8 on the
All right.
D10. So
That'll give you a hit with a raise. So you'll roll your strength plus a D6 and then double that because you're assuming it on Mars.
Oh. So I got a 10 on the fighting die, or the 10-sider.
Okay.
Wait, this is strength. I'm
Your
sorry.
strength,
It's
yeah.
strength.
Yeah, strength.
I don't know why I rolled the D10 again.
That's okay.
That's
Yeah,
not
add
as
those-
good, but it's a 4.
Well, add those together. So
Both of them.
because-
4 plus 3 is 7.
Okay. You come across this guy and you hit him square in the jaw. And it snaps his head around. But you can tell that he definitely has it sort of staggers him a little bit. So
He can take a beating.
needing a beating. So and on his turn, he's going to have to roll to see if he can actually unshake himself. And he does succeed in unshaking himself, and he sort of shakes his head a little bit. That he squares up again. He's really gets an idea what you're doing. His hands are. You've seen boxers. Of course, you clench your fists and put it in front of your face. This fellow's hands are open, and his hands are moving up and down. It's a different style than you've seen before. So maybe almost as if maybe he's more of a grappler than he is a puncher. But his unshaking is actually his action this round. So we're going to the next round and dealing some new cards here. So share screen. All right, for Fergal, we have Jack of Spades. Getting some good draws there. Versus the 5 of Hearts. So you get to go and swing at this fella first.
Excellent. Okay, so this one I'm gonna so to punch twice, I have to spend a.
You will take a -2 to your attacks, to both attacks to do that. But you can basically do that if you want to, 2 times.
So I have the luck of the Irish, which gives me the ability to spend a Benny to ignore -2 on rolls.
Yep.
So
you
I'm
spend
gonna
a
do
penny and make 2 attacks, yes.
Excellent. I like this.
That is nice for the Irish. Ooh.
Okay, so I got a 9 on the first one. That was
All right.
a 6 plus 3, so.
Okay.
And then 5 on the second one.
All right. So that first one connects. So roll me some bludgeoning damage on that one. You don't have a raise on it, so it's just your basic strength die. The other one does not connect.
That is going to be a total of 10.
All right. So you hit him again, good and solid. He's able to sort of shift away from the other one, and I am using these storytellers' bennies to benny him to get out of his shaking. So, because yes, the storyteller has bennies too. So he's actually going to swing on you this time as he comes back. So you knocked him back a bit, and he comes back with this big roar and big fist was flying through the air. And he rolled a 6. What did your parry, sir?
My parry is 6.
All right, so
got it.
So since it was actually a power score, you actually are able to get your guard up just right as he comes in, but not quite because the power score.
But it's heavy hit though.
it's definitely going to be a heavy hit. You rolled a 7, so that'll probably just stagger you. I'm thinking, what is your toughness, sir?
My toughness is 7.
Well, what's a power score? So he hits you, and he makes you shaken at that point. So it was a good blow to the jaw there, but nothing more than you dealt with before.
So I'm now shaken, right?
Yes, you're now shaken. So let's go ahead and deal these cards here real quick. And no, you can spend a Benny done checking yourself at any time. You don't have to wait.
Just a
till your turn
question,
to do
though.
so.
I have Iron Jaw, which I can shrug off extreme blows. I can add +2 to soak rolls and vigor to
Yeah,
avoid. That's
so
knockout.
So yeah, what base has for knockout. See, this was not close to knockout blow. So
Okay,
gotcha.
gotcha.
It was just sort of a stunning move there. All right, so the deal this time. Fergal has a 7 of hearts, and the other fellow has an 8 of diamonds. So he's actually going first this time.
All right.
So as I said, you can spend a Benny done checking yourself at any time, because remember, you only take damage if you're actually shaken. So he goes to throw a blow at you again, and he is going to miss you, even though you're shaken. It's like he's maybe those blows earlier rattled his cage a little bit more than he thought, and he goes to throw a shot, and it just whips right past your face.
So can I roll a feint then to pull him through and maybe have him like overextend and try to throw him?
If you spend a Benny done to get somebody shaken, you can do that. Otherwise, you have to roll a spirit roll to get yourself unshaken, and that would be your action this turn.
All right, spending a Benny.
All right.
And then a feint test. So
Okay.
it's against his agility again. So
All right.
we got an 8 for the
All right.
feint.
Your feint succeeds.
Okay. So then I'm going to attack, then trying to throw him to the ground.
All right.
Throw him prone,
All right. So that's going to be. Oh yeah. Okay.
Wait. That's 15 total.
All right.
So,
You grab his arm. Well, actually, tell me how you do this and put him on the ground.
okay, so I'm imagining that he punches me freaking hard and I'm like shaking, but I just rise back up and I'm still shorter than him, but I'm able to come up to his arm and I just press into his elbow and pull on his wrist and then just guide him into the ground and kind of drive his face into the ground, just throwing him to the ground.
All right. You drive him into the ground with that great agility that a good fighter has. His face hits the deck with a somewhat sickening crunch, and with that high of a roll there, you have put him out. He's out. His face, as you're rolling over, is just a plaster of blue as his nose has been broken, and yeah, he's just laying there completely out.
Is he dead or just?
He's not dead. He's just not completely out.
Terry will be the first to hoot and holler. There's a lad.
And there's lots of hoots and hollers that goes on. So as he's that's one of the fellows actually comes up. Hawkins, you were going to say that.
Hmm?
You're there. I'm sure.
Yeah. I whisper over to Terrence. You think he wants him dead?
I don't think so. But he just
Okay.
earned himself some pair of socks.
That he did. His feet are going to be nice and warm.
Oh, yeah. The dress socks.
One of the green Martians, Bit Kisford comes over and leans over this fellow, looks at him real quick and says, "He's not dead. Do you want that to not be?"
No, I want him to live.
Okay. He grabs
What was this man's rank on the ship?
he was the rank he gives you translates in your mind to the equivalent of an able seaman. Basically, he's a corporal, effectively. So
Well, he's part of the officer corps now. He's willing to fight for his ship out of all of you.
Okay. You see some respect from several of the Red Martians about that as you hear what sounds like a muffled scream as Bit Kister is apparently wrapping his entire face in gauze.
Is his face gone?
Yeah, it's covered. His mouth and nose is currently being covered by him. And you hear him say, hold still, this is stop the bleeding.
Can we get a real
Terry
medic
will,
over here?
will nudge the nudge Baldric. Your student needs more instruction. Would you please go help him?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna limp over dramatically on a crutch.
Okay.
The line, struggle to tie it. Looking sadly at the sergeant.
He looks. Of course, this fellow is Ben Kistra has basically one of his lower arms holding in the middle of this guy's chest down as his other ones are wrapping this guy's head. His other arm is behind the guy's head. So he's obviously trying to reach up and trying to get to this thing because he can't breathe.
Cease and desist. Stop.
He stops and looks up at you, but he's bleeding.
Kistra,
But
you
you're
don't wrap
killing
the
him.
face.
Oh, okay. He starts unwrapping the guy's face and he takes a big breath of air. And his eyes are huge. And he's looking up with horror and fear at this bit Kistra leaning over him.
Terry will see if he can catch the Captain Khan's eye, and if he does, he'll ask, "Would you turn these birds around and set us down on the edge of Beltan, please? We have an appointment to keep."
That we do. He details the skeleton crew and makes sure that one of his bosuns is in charge of it. Oddly enough, when that fellow stands up and looks over at Virgil, this Moss Beetle fellow, he looks at you, he nods, and he goes to one knee and he pledges his loyalty to you. You also get about 24 Zdongans that follow his lead. And so they want to actually follow you. So the rest of them are basically placed on one side of the superstructures and are guarded, and they get the ship up ready to go. And it takes you guys probably most of the rest of the day to get back to Beltan.
So it'll be good close to evening or sunset by the time we get home.
Yeah, it'll be the usual Martian sunset is beginning as you guys come to the edge of the city. For both of these ships are basically set down just outside the main walls. The Heliumite ship had already, they had sent word via flyer back to Beltan they were coming. And at the gate, it's a bit hasty, but it has a bit of the pageantry that you'd expect out of royalty. You see that there's a welcoming party there.
Terry will be the first one off of the Heliumite ship. He does not want to be on that ship or associated with this lot any longer than he feels needs be.
Okay.
Before he does get off the ship, he's going to tie on his Beltan yellow sand scarf that he's been waiting to actually put on. But yeah, he's kind of fast walk up the hill to the gate.
Okay. You're able to land. Of course, you're the first person off, and you're met with a honor guard on each side of both of these soldiers.
I nod to them.
Your men hasten to follow you off as your own personal honor guard, and you can actually hear them muttering in the back about you putting on that yellow scarf. And
This
they
will
should
be
be
the
very
first time
happy
they've
with
actually
that.
seen it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
they're
what was that,
very
Keith?
happy about that.
Oh, okay.
They also have in their custody the young lady that you had put under your protection upon the Heliumite ship from Zidanga as well.
Excellent.
You are about half, of course. The rest of you fellows, I'm sure, are probably going to be, Virgil's going to be on his own ship. So you'll be met with your own guard as well there. Hawkins, which ship did you ride on?
I rode back on the ship that the Heliolite ship.
Okay, so you'll be right there with them with your Green Martian honor guard as well.
as we're getting out of the ship, I am going to be giving Histra the lecture of a lifetime on proper medical procedure.
Okay. And he's leaning forward in a almost an awkward look with his lesser hands clasped in front and his upper hands clasped in back, listening very, very intently and nodding. And he'll occasionally interject. So you don't cover the breathing holes, right?
No, for the last time, you do not cover the breathing holes. You leave the breathing holes open.
What about the rear vent? Does that
Cover that all you want,
okay?
but you have to change the dressings.
Okay. So he's listening to that, and of course, your registered Green Martians are with you, and as you as their feet hit the ground again, they start chanting your name. Hawkins, Hawkins, Hawkins.
I'm gonna puff up a bit and look around.
You hear from the walls above replies of Hawkins. As you see, the walls are actually, it was sort of hard to see when you hit the ground because the way the walls were set up, they actually have covers over the parapets and such, but the entire wall is lined with people watching this. And you're seeing Green Martians up and down the area repeating the Hawkins. So in front of you, standing probably 20 feet from the actual gate itself, you see the 5 members of the ruling council. At their center, of course, is Bo Chan. To her immediate left is Bill Torbett, the Red Martian. Thieves Bell is to the other side of her, and then the Green Martian, Horp Hole, is actually looking up at the walls. And he has a bit of a concerned look on his face. So, and then of course, Court Calic, the first man, he's looking looking over to where Fergal's ship is landing, and it's almost as if he's calculating what's it's going to take to fix it. So,
Terry will, as he's, I suppose, walking up to that group, he'll cast a look over his shoulder and he'll holler to call to the city head engineer. I said, well, I apologize. It took some doing to bring that eagle down to the ground, but Fergal is the new captain of the vessel. If you wish to speak with him on repairs, you may do so.
He looks at you and nods.
I'm gonna look at. Oh, sorry.
As you're speaking that, you hear Bo Chan clear her throat and looks at you. You had the temerity to address someone other than her first.
I stand up straight. He'll look to her and he'll forgive me, my dear. What direction, cardinal direction, is Beltan to helium, or helium to Beltan from us?
Okay. Well, it really depends on which direction you're going on the planet.
Well, okay, we were coming. Well, when we were leaving this morning, what direction were we going to meet that frigate?
Beltan is about 1,000 miles to the west of Helium.
Okay.
And Zidanga is actually farther north than both.
So we were going northwest?
Yes, basically northwest. The
The
general direction of where Zidanga would be.
Terry will actually walk up to her at a respectful distance, and he'll actually he'll take a knee, actually.
Okay.
And he'll actually say, a northwest wind blew warm on my face this morning when I left the city. And my gaze will actually follow her feet up her calf, her leg, to meet her eyes, and I'll smile and say, now I know why. And he'll actually offer his hand.
She reaches out and takes your hand and motions you to rise, and she has a bit of a smile to her face. And says,
He will
"Oh, it
stand
too."
and he will kiss her hand.
Okay. She looks a bit shocked at that, but at the same time, she also sees it pleased. At that point, you actually hear from behind you, interrupting you, unfortunately, because
Oh God, shoots. He turns around.
You see Bella Thoris walking up, and she has, of course, the captain, Kyron Khan, is with her, and a small honor guard of 4 soldiers, two red Martians and 2 green Martians you had not seen before. So they must have been down in cabins before, but they're dressed as Tharks. You don't necessarily know what their harnesses and such mean, but they are Tharks. They are of that tribe. And she steps forward and says, "Bo-chan, it's a pleasure to meet the Jedak of Beltan finally." She says, I am Bel Thoris." And you see Bo-chan's eyes sort of widen a little bit, as if she's a bit surprised. And she says, "What does the granddaughter of the ruler of Mars wish with Beltan?" And you can see that there's a bit of trepidation in her eyes, almost as if she's worried about what the next word is going to be.
If I'm still holding her hand, or if she has not let go of me,
Well, she hasn't.
Okay.
You actually feel that her hand actually grabs a little tighter as she's introduced.
I will actually run my thumb over the back of her hand and kind of like squeeze it. And
Okay.
I'll actually, under my breath, mutter, "Well, my Jedak, I believe that they're here for me."
She looks at you and says, that is correct. We have been sent to retrieve a certain Sergeant Terrence Hawthorne, who requested a meeting with my grandfather.
Oh, no.
Had you told Bo-chan about that?
I mentioned it to her. When I did,
Okay.
she was not pleased.
Okay. Her eyes do sort of narrow, and she drops her hand at that.
Yep. Terry's in the doghouse.
And she looks over at Bell and says, "Understand, he does not speak with the voice of Beltan, only himself."
Oh,
And
Terry kind of like stammer. I would not know that this is. I wouldn't dare. I would not dare.
Okay. I'll just say that. She nods and says, "We understand this. This is not a diplomatic issue. This is one man of Jasun wishing to speak with another."
I will agree my accordance, and I will try and give Bo-chan a look that conveys that I am both apologizing for this surprise she may or may not have forgotten, but and also a look that kind of is reassuring as well.
Okay. She nods at you and says, "Then, by all means, hasten with your task and return in one piece." And she reaches up and she strokes the yellow ribbon, or the yellow or scarf around your neck.
Terry, being a shameless flirt, he'll actually smirk and he'll kind of like look down at her hand and then follow her arm back to her eyes and says, "Beltan looks good on me, does it not?"
It does.
Well,
So
hopefully I get to wear the rest of her sometime then.
okay. her mouth quirks up as if she's about to smile at that.
But
But then you see,
probably best she's not because we're in public.
but then you see her sort of regain her composure. It was just a flicker of amusement at that. And she says, "Then hurry back."
Terry looks down when she swears. Oh, whoops! That came out. Whoops. Before we go, I look to Chiron Khan and Belforus. I realized that my letter said that we were to be unarmed and to meet alone. But I have a ward, and if I leave this city without telling him or seeing him, he's going to be absolutely pissed. I look at Bo-chan and I say, "Where is George?"
She looks over her shoulder, and you can see back at the gate, sort of where the shadow is our deepest. You see him standing there, feet spread apart, arms crossed in front of his chest, with a bit of a miffed look on his face.
I break away from the crowd. I just start walking to him.
Okay.
I don't even excuse myself.
Okay.
He
Right.
is now a tutor. This is a student.
Okay.
Oh,
You
go
can
for it.
hear a bit of course, Hawking's wife see this better than anybody else. There's a bit of like, what's going on? And Bo-chan looks and says, he has taken my nephew as a personal man, basically as a squire is what comes
She
back.
explains what a ward is. Okay.
Well, they have a word for it. There's actually a tradition of doing it.
Okay.
Basically, it's like having basically it's my man George now. He is the guy
He's my
you're trained to
Batman.
basically beat to your Batman.
I
you get-
start walking to him. Washington.
He sort of at that naming, he sort of tilts his head a little bit and he says, "You did all that without me?"
Do you remember this morning when I told you it wasn't going to be worth your time? We're going to leave and
Yes.
come right back. It was going to be a
Yes.
matter of hours, and it was going to be so boring.
Yes.
Do you see the bullshit that they dropped on us out there?
I see a captured formerly Zidongan warship.
I know. I told you it wasn't going to be interesting. That was not my plan. From now on, young man, you will be glued to my hip. Now, come on. We have to go meet the warlord of Barsoom requests my presence.
Hmm.
I just word it like that with a...
He lifts up that, He sort of tilts his head as if he's waiting for an invitation, specifically written, possibly with gold leaf.
All right, Washington. I am telling you that you will be following me. I am volunteering you to come with on my meeting. Would you like to come?
He nods. It'll be my honor.
Excellent. Get your things and let's go.
He reaches into a little alcove there in the gate and actually brings his kit out with his saber. He apparently has spare clothing packed and everything. Throws it over his shoulder.
I see you
Let's
already
go.
have a bag packed, lad.
Yes. You did say always be prepared, yes?
Mm-hmm. I do admire preparedness. I mess up his hair. I really do. He's a great kid.
He grins at that and laughs a bit.
When we actually get back to the group, I stop in my tracks and I go, Belle, dear, is your grandfather expecting me to be bathed? Let me ask you this. How long has he been waiting?
He is in the process of heading to the location as we speak. He should
Okay.
arrive by morning.
I will actually defer to my princess at that, and I will look at Bo-chan with a look of, should I clean up? I mean, Terry's still bruised. His ears are not ringing from that shell anymore, but he's still covered in Martian dust and sand.
Um, Karen Khan looks at you and he says, "We have facilities and proper quarters upon my ship that you can avail yourself of. We are fully prepared to become a diplomatic yacht if need be."
Excellent. I will thank you, Chiron Khan. I'll look back at Bo-chan and be like, and tell her I will be right back. Come along, Weed. And I push Washington a little bit, and Weed is now my my form of endearment for him. It's a bit of an insult, but he knows I have called him Weed and often enough that is actually a form of endearment.
Okay.
I would imagine that right after you're saying that and you're beginning to walk off, I come walking up. Sir, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. And
of course,
what's swirling in McGuire's head is what he's just seen and done. How long was it from the trip back from?
About 6 hours, give or take.
So in that 6 hour time, I would imagine that we took the prisoners, but then I would have asked that the command, crew show me the ship and show me the runnings of the ship, right? And tell me what needs to be fixed and so on.
Yeah, they go through it.
During this process, I'm trying to look like I've always watched commanders come through and look over as they're sick. But the longer I'm listening to them, I start going more pale, and my palms are sweating. And they see
I'll
me just
take
sort of
Fergal's arm and kind of like pull him off to the side so we can have a private talk.
But this was while they were doing this, and they may have I tried to keep a poker face through the whole thing and probably did pretty good about it. But as soon as we got back, I just told the Flying Irish to go take a break. They're off duty for now. And Moss
going to get drunk,
as pirates should,
right? And I guess the command crew is going to stay with the ship.
Yeah, they'll be under guard for the moment because they're not really trusted as of yet. As a matter of fact, you see as you're heading up to Hawthorne, you see off to the side there's a cluster of soldiers and officers coming through the gate. And you recognize a familiar face there. You see Gres Vaughn. Looks to be strapping on some of his cutlass as he's walking out that way. And one of the he sees the Flying Irish as they come heading toward the gate. They stop to have a short conversation. He detaches from them and he starts heading your way.
I'll holler at him. Just wave.
He waves. And comes trotting over there, and
I'll kind of give him I suppose the warrior's handshake with the the half hug, if you will.
Yeah, that's what he does to you. And he does the same to Fergal, and he says,
"And I'm just kind of standing Fergal.
There, right? I just look at him, and I kind of just shove Fergal in the arm.
Yeah. He grins ear to ear, and he leans forward and says, "This your first ship, I'm assuming."
Second. The first one was the schoon, the two-manner.
Okay. Well, we'll get you all taken care of. Don't worry. So, would you like me to delegate a second for you?
I'm looking at Terrence like, what does that mean?
Yeah, Fergal would like a second. Gresfon, would you?
I would like Moss Bale to be my second.
He's recently sworn Zitongan. Yeah. We need someone more trustworthy. I am not advising against it. However, until he is trustworthy, we need somebody who is Beltan blood.
You mean when you don't swear fealty to your king and queen, you aren't loyal unto death?
Well,
he just looks at you kind of sarcastically.
He'll he just kind of looks over at Gres Vaughn like, you want to take this, mate?
Gres Vaughn looks at you too and he says, "Is this fellow a officer of the ship?
No.
Is he one of the
He is now.
Well, what was he before?
No, he was midshipman, I suppose, like Fergal was.
Okay. He basically puts his arm around Fergal's shoulders and starts sort of walking them back toward the ship. And he says, "What you'll need, lad, is a good experienced airman. I have a couple on my ship that would actually be able to stand in that position for you." And you actually hear him almost a stage whisper as he leans into Fergal and says, "They actually do all the work. All you do is stand there and make them feel better." So,
I can try out. I can try that out.
Terry just smiles.
Definitely. So, okay.
Lord Sergeant Hawthorne and Corporal McGuire, I have a request.
Let's hear it.
I have a giant pack of green Martians behind me.
Of
I
course.
need to be back by sundown.
They're gathering. Literally, you see a gathering of green Martians, and this when you sort of realize that you're hearing all these Martians sort of chanting Hawkins.
Terry will just give Baldric a look. But before I continue, out of character, has Baldric actually made his aspirations to be the new Dark okay, so let me back up here. Terry will just go, Baldric.
Yes.
What's this on about? You have a devious twinkle in your eye, and that look has always given me cause for worry. What do you have in the works?
Well, I've got to fight to become Jed later.
He will sweep his gaze up to the wall, down the wall. He will then look past you, and he'll just go, think you can do it?
Yep. However, you guys are, of course, invited. I would actually prefer you be there.
Damn it. When is this bout?
Sundown.
Sundown?
Less than an hour away.
He just points to the sun like...
Yeah. Hawkins, you're actually feeling a bit better. Remove one of those levels of damage off of your character.
Will do.
That's odd. It's only been a day, and it's like your body is mending at a rate that you're not used to.
You
hear them chanting my name.
I'm there. I'm there, Lynx, actually. Expression on Terry's face is also
at this point, you notice pretty much everybody else is also noticing this. You're not the only one.
And I look at Hawkins and like, are you taking a slash here? In other words, you taking a piss on us?
Nope. Dead serious.
Oh yeah, he's.
Wow.
You got a ship. He's the sergeant.
Fucking voodoo magic.
It looks like we're all very busy.
Yeah. At this point, you actually hear, as I said, that's with this noise and such. The others are not that far away. You hear one of the Tharks lean, you see Bella Thor is sort of looked over at one of them and he leans forward and says, not too quietly, it says, "It looks as if the local green men are asking for a new Jed." And she sort of lights up, like, really?
Terry's just a little on the speechless side. Is there ceremony to these bouts? How long will this take? I'm not rushing you, Hawkins, but inform me. Tell me what your thoughts are.
I'm going to go at it in hand-to-hand combat.
Of course.
Oh, he's fucked.
You hear Hawkins' laughter, and it's extremely nervous. I've been training.
Can you stave off this bout until I get back? That's kind of more to the Tharks behind you than to you.
And look at my men.
You see, they all look towards Zitba Sur. He's the oldest of the bunch, and he looks up at the two Tharks that are there with the Bellathorus, and he says this loud enough so that everybody can hear it.
Ooh, ear-splitting Thark voice. Yes.
Yeah, he said, Tharks, my brothers, would you honor us with your presence at the challenge of Hawkins for the seat of Jed of the Green Men of Beltan? And everything goes quiet. And they sort of look to each other and look down at Bellathorus sort of surreptitiously. And she sort of says, "We do have the meeting tomorrow morning." One nods and looks over and says very, very loudly back, "We would very much like to attend this fight, but honor demands that we escort our ward back to her home. If you will allow us to do this, we swear to return and witness this great struggle." And pretty much everyone sort of is looking towards Hawkins at this point.
Accepted.
Out of the frying pan.
And with that, you hear cheers. And Hawkins, it goes from Hawkins, and Hawkins and Dark. And
I'm gonna whisper under my breath towards Fergal. Hey, Corporal, if I utterly screw this up, the really good dress socks are in the bottom of the chest.
I just nod to him.
And so is the extra pack of cigarettes.
You feel
No.
Basura reaches up and puts his hand on your shoulder, and he says, "Do you wish to go with the sergeant, or do you wish to stay here with your man Fergal?"
I'm going to stay with Fergal, if that is all right with you, Sergeant.
My presence was requested alone. You guys can't come with.
Okay.
But
He nods.
I am gonna put my arm on my lad's shoulders. In my absence, I am with you.
Okay.
Do the king proud, would you?
Yes, sir.
And the queen. Hey.
Hey.
And the
I am.
princess.
Under my breath, man, I am going to have so many ladies after this.
One of the Thark steps forward and does the cross arm salute to you as one equal to another. And you don't know enough about the Green Men to recognize his harness as being a jet in his own right. A fairly high placed jet in his tribe, as a matter of fact. He says, "I am Garm Urus, and I will stay here and ensure that," and he's saying this very loudly, "ensure that no cowards choose to place a knife between your arms while you sleep. If they do, the entire Thark horde will descend upon them."
You honor me, Garma Urus, and I shall honor you in any further bouts. Same man.
He nods. Maybe the spelling there. With that, he basically attaches himself to you, and you see Bellathor sort of smile at that, as if that was something maybe she had planned. And basically, they basically take you in Hawkins, and you're sort of mustered off. You're going to go drink now. That is their decision, and they're drinking with this new Thark too. You're told basically on your way that Garm Thuris is one of the greater warriors of Thark. He has fought besides the life of Tars Tarkas, and he was at the assault of Zidanga, where John Carter slew their Jedak and rescued his princess. And he nods, and they all want to hear the stories. So you're going to be regaled by stories of freaking John Carter tonight.
Terry, under his breath, will just kind of muse the name Zat Aris with a bit of a sneer.
The Virgil is basically taken under the wing there of Gress Vaughn and taken back over to his ship to sort of help him survey the damage and figure out what crews to start with first. And Sergeant Hawthorne is allowed to say some goodbyes.
Yeah, I'll walk back over to Bo-chan and kind of give her a proper goodbye.
Okay. She is it proper in the sense of a proper bow to a queen or a Jedak, or proper in you're going to basically bend her backwards and kiss her before you leave?
I have not been told that I can put my hands on her in such a way, so he's it will be written large on his face, however, that he wants to, but he will what he will say is, my lady, my road calls to me.
Okay. She reaches out and takes your hand, and she kisses your hand and rubs her thumb across your knuckles and says, "Come back, not only to Beltan, but to me." And with that, she drops your hand and sort of steps back.
I'll just nod. Of course. I'll be quick about it. Walking back over to George and Bellathoris, ever the gentleman, he will glance over at Bellathoris. Would you like to tarry just a few moments and say hello, or possibly have a moment with your cousin?
I would, but our time is short.
Well,
when we bring you back, I'll make my visit to her.
Let the record reflect that I offered.
She nods. This is
Lead the way,
kind
my dear.
Okay, then they lead you back over to the Eliamite ship. All the crew takes back to the decks, and they pull up the gangway and are off fairly quickly without too much more ceremony. You guys find yourself climbing into the sky as the sun finally fades along the edge of the horizon. Down on Beltan, the darkness falls fairly quickly with just a bit of that reflected light up in the sky, and it actually causes that airship, as it rises, to twinkle like a star, flying away as the sky itself darkens. And you see it very quickly heading toward the horizon. So we can do a real quick, say 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back in about 10 minutes, guys, and we will pick this up again. So, boom, there we go. Welcome back. So guys, what I'm probably going to do here, I'm probably going to break it the next hour and a half up between, well, I'm going to try to do the John Carter meetup real quick. And if for some reason we run out of time before we can actually do the deal, we will open the next game session with the duel. Mainly because in fact, I don't want to rush that. But I also don't want to be here till midnight here locally.
Yeah,
So,
no problem.
so we'll see where that winds up running out to us, and we'll go from there.
Sounds bueno.
So. Can't hear you, Lance.
I don't mind it taking place next week
Okay. Yeah. You have a very directional mic.
if it has to. Yeah, that's the computer.
Okay. Because
Probably best because you're not hearing the cat all day.
okay. Because it looks like we'll probably have about an hour to do this, so we'll get the John Carter thing out because there actually is some information that you guys will need from that meeting.
Plus side of the directional mic is you're not hearing the demonic screeching of different people in the building, the fighting, the police, stuff like that. You're not hearing the normal day-to-day. EMS, you know.
Yeah.
What normally goes on here.
It's not really that scary, just so you know. I've been over there. My wife's grandmother used to live over there too, so.
Yeah, well, this is also B building and it's also nighttime.
True, yeah.
We get EMS 3 times a week, police once to twice a week.
Yeah.
Demonic screeching and neighbors at least 3 times a week, fighting twice a week.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you just get really desensitized to it after a while. You hear boom, boom, boom. You're like, oh, not my door. Okay, whatever.
Oh yeah.
I cannot wait to go get regular food tomorrow.
Okay.
I really wanted to Grubhub, but then I'd have to run in the middle of us doing our live stream.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So.
I didn't think you guys wanted me running downstairs in the middle of this to go get my food. Actually, I'll probably just walk and get Chinese tonight.
I wouldn't suggest it.
What? It'll only be midnight.
Yeah, but I think the Chinese place closes before then.
No, it closes at 1 p.m. or 1 a.m.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if you do, be very, very careful.
After all that you described, you're going to walk out at like midnight?
Yeah.
I always do that.
Yeah, but that was before the riots and stuff were occurring.
Yeah, so.
So, yeah.
Freaking hunger, man.
Okay. Forage.
Yeah.
Go forth and forage then.
Take a spear.
Might not be a bad idea. Yeah, we haven't had any. Well, let me get back. We have had riots, but they've been fairly contained to specific areas. So they weren't necessarily widespread. That's true. They had very specific areas. So.
Wasn't that where the captain was shot dead?
No, not here. That was in
Oklahoma City.
Okay, no, Oklahoma City. I want to say it was St. Louis, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
It was St. Louis. Yeah.
But not closer to you guys. But
yeah. So yeah, other side of us from you. So
we had the
guy in the truck trying to run people down the highway, but he wasn't really doing that, you know.
And then we had the guy walking down the side of the road in broad daylight with an assault rifle carrying a sign.
Yeah, as I said, that was Tuesday in Oklahoma. So,
and then we had Wednesday, they went to a different mall.
Yeah. That was peaceful. The last night was peaceful. Last night, Tuesday,
it was not peaceful.
Was peaceful. Last night
no, it was not.
Yeah, it was.
No, it was not. Have you checked the Tulsa PD Facebook? No, it was
Yes,
not.
I actually have. Last night was not a bad night. Not like Monday night was. Monday night they actually had a flat out riot at one of the malls. They should have the National Guard called out to block certain buildings, and eventually all dispersed. But
So do you think McDonald's is open till 1 a.m.? Do you think I can like Uber Eats myself some McDonald's?
that you probably could, or you could order like a pizza from Domino's or something.
Dude, I've already eaten 2 pizzas this week. That's too many calories.
Oh well,
I
okay.
just want to order 3 cheeseburgers and 20 nuggets and a large fry.
No, that's going to be more calories than the pizza.
Chinese it is.
You can also order Chinese too. So,
But I don't want
Get
to have to
yourself some,
call
like,
and make 'em drive.
Broccoli chicken or broccoli beef, and
Ew, no.
yeah.
Lo
You don't like
mein.
that?
Lo mein. She's a lo
I
mein
like
person.
my beef lo mein with my beef fried rice and my egg rolls. Speaking of that, can we get that tomorrow when I go get my medication?
Yeah, we can do that.
So we can get it from the good place?
Yes,
Yes.
depending on how long the line is.
Oh.
I drove by the
I'm
other
back
day and they're
now.
literally out in the parking lot of the grocery store. Hello, welcome back.
That's some bullshit,
Let
dude.
me fix my scene here real quick.
That's a
Okay.
really pretty picture that you have there, Keith.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. I love it.
Well, if all else fails, I'll just eat my healthy
Nope.
trail mix.
There we go. All right. So
As
while
the
you're away,
adjoining scene.
while you were away, we had a discussion. Decided that if your meeting with John Carter goes longer, we'll basically just do the duel at the beginning of the next session. So
And murder your character.
we have about an hour left of our normal time.
Murder my character? Why?
Well, I mean that's how you take over a thing in Mars, is you kill the person in charge, right?
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Anyway, Anyway.
Okay.
so
And then Fergal takes Fergal takes position.
Well, Fergal would have to kill you, as so he then is.
Oh no, I
That
willingly
actually-
surrender. He paid me socks.
I see. I see how you are. Now I see where your loyalties are. You bastard.
So getting back to our story here, as the Martian dreadnought takes into the sky from helium, you're shown to some
Beltan, you mean?
Yeah, we have from Beltan. The heliumite. Sorry.
A helium ship leaving Beltan.
Yes,
That's what
helium ship leaving Beltan. As it takes up in the air, and you see the sun descend behind the great spire that is Beltan. You're shown to a fairly nice cabin. It's larger than the one you had before on the first Martian cruiser you were on. And of course, you have the showers there that you're used to and things like that. You actually have time at this point to sort of look over and contemplate what's been going on for you.
Finally, a moment of quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Terry actually muses. He lets that slip out. I don't know if George
Okay.
is near me or not.
Yeah, George actually has the adjoining cabin. It's like the one you had before with the when you're on the first ship, you had a door between the two of you.
Right.
His cabin is not quite as opulent as yours is, but it's definitely of higher quality.
It is a fit for a Prince of Beltan.
You also find something there that you weren't expecting. There is on one of the little tables there's a bottle that has it, that you look at it, it's an American whiskey. And sitting next to it is a small box of cigars.
I kind of quick step over to it and I pick up the bottle and I read it. Is it very happy to actually see English letters?
Well, yeah, it is American. You're not familiar with the brand per se, but it apparently it's from Kentucky. It's a bourbon. It says.
Right.
Apparently it was bottled when it was 6 years old.
All right.
the cigars are the labels on them is in Spanish, so they're possibly from Cuba. And there's a note written in a very flowery hand, and it says, "A little taste of home, JC."
Oh, I Terry takes a look at the door that goes to George's cabin. Is the thing locked? Is it unlocked? It's closed, obviously.
It's closed. It's probably as is default locked.
Okay. He'll actually cast over his shoulder and look at his door, which he had made sure it was locked twice.
Oh yes.
Terry actually. Oh my God. Oh fuck. Just rolled a 1. Terry's finally alone. He's been on this fucking planet for weeks now, probably close to a month. And peace and quiet. An example of like legit human kindness. He gets emotional. Like he'll just either the tears will well up and he'll take a cigar, put it between his fingers. He has the bourbon in the other hand, and it's this image is gonna make him look like a raging alcoholic. He'll go and sit on the bed, and he'll take a few moments because he's put on a brave face for his lads. He's been trying to support them, push them, anything that he can possibly do to make them look good and in the eyes of the Martians. And he just takes a good 3 minutes to just let it out. The valves are open, and he'll I don't know if George is perceptive enough to actually hear him let it out quietly through the door. I don't know if the boy is that suspicious or snooping, but he'll put the bourbon on the floor and then put a hanky to the eyes, compose himself, and there's the British officer again.
Okay.
He'll actually take the cork, the stopper, out of the bourbon. He'll actually give it a sniff. Is it?
It has a very rich, woody smell to it. You can sort of scent the undertones of corn in there.
This is a sipper, is what he's holding. You're saying?
Definitely. This is one of the ones that's, and of course, obviously, the alcohol tickles his nose.
He will take a tentative swig.
All right. It's smooth, but of course, as soon as it goes down the burn, it has that warm burn going down. You can definitely taste the proper undertones that you expect from a good corn whiskey, which is a bit different from what the Irish whiskeys you get, or the Scotch that you Englishmen drink quite a bit of, or even the sherry, which is a little sweeter. This actually has a sweeter undertone than Scotch, but it has that. But of course, it has that warm heat that is pretty much indicative of all good liquor. He will
barely be able to hold back a cry of elation of that translate to, "Oh well, fuck me, that's delightful."
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. So, and if anyone's out in the hallway, or George is obviously going to be able to hear this,
yeah. You hear a rap at the door between you and says, "Sir, are you okay?"
Oh yeah. He'll actually stick the cigar in his mouth. He'll light that up,
okay.
And he'll unlock the door, George's door. Yeah, I'm.
That tobacco, when it actually hits your mouth with that sort of lingering flavor of that bourbon, just explodes again. And the two combined, you understand now why in the south of the United States they distill this bourbon and they grow this tobacco in the same area, because it's as if these two were designed to be savored together. They seem to enhance the flavor of each.
He'll try very hard not to get emotional again because he's very, very homesick for Earth right now.
George looks at you, looks at this thing hanging out of your mouth, and he's seen you smoke cigarettes, but he's never seen one this big. And he's like, what is this, a heliumite thing?
No, my boy, this is, I actually take it out. This is similar to the cigarettes that I smoke, but so much better.
I understand.
They actually, if I am aware, if I understand this correctly, the plant that these are actually made from is grown close to where, you'll hold up the bottle, close to where, now he's actually looking for us. He says Kentucky on it, but like where? Kentucky,
apparently, it says it's actually a place called Lexington, Kentucky.
So it's a village, shire, exceedingly English, called Lexington, and that this is a very generous gift the warlord has given me. He just looks long pause staring at these gifts, and Terry's stress level just evaporates. Like he was so anxious and so jittery that the butterflies are now gone.
Yeah. You do know that with your dealings with your friend from New York, occasionally you've had dealings with his associates, and one time you actually spoke with a fellow who was from the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And when he arrived, he did almost the same thing with presenting a bottle of bourbon and cigars. It seems to be a very American tradition. So very similar to the British tradition of bringing a fine wine to a dinner.
I'll actually relay that. That was 3 Christmases before Terry actually enlisted. He'll explain that his friend James from New York did such a thing, and he'll explain to George that, in my country we exchange a fine wine. The Yanks, however, take it a step further, and you offer these delightful things and an amazing liquor. It's we are the same people, but we're far enough apart where our customs are just slightly different.
Oh, of course, like different cities.
Of course, yeah.
He says, "May I have a taste of this?
I hand the bottle.
Is there enough?"
Have a swig. It's full.
He looks at it and looks over the table and walks over and actually picks up actually it's a.
Is it a whiskey tumbler?
Basically, a whiskey tumbler.
Yeah.
He picks one up and he pours a bit into that, sniffs it, and says, "This has a odd smell."
Don't drink. Sip.
Okay. He obviously, having dealt with some of the Martian alcohol, he takes a deep breath and takes a drink of it, closes his eyes, and a look of utter ecstasy passes across his face. And he breathes out.
I know, right?
And he says, "That has the most interesting flavors to it. What is that?" He smacks his lips a little bit and sniffs them. There's something here. I don't know what it is.
I think of the image of an ear of corn, and I force it into his mind.
His eyes get huge.
That's what that is. And it grows by the field.
And
it's pretty tall now.
he takes a breath again and actually tosses back the rest that's in there and breathes out. And he says, so this is, I am tasting Jasum.
Quite literally, the best parts of it, lad.
And he gets a look of absolute wonder on his face.
If
And,
I could give you a glass of red wine from home, I would. Perhaps that is something I'll have to try in the future.
Okay. Yes, he motions toward the cigars. There's a box of 10, actually 9 now. Go. May I?
Yeah, I'll go into my pocket and I'll just kind of like flick the matches up onto the table for him.
Okay. He picks up one of the cigars and looks at it, looks at what you've got there, and he puts the other one into his mouth.
Yeah, I'll do it so he can mimic me.
Okay. And he'll pull out a match and he'll look at it, and he's seen you use it before. And the first match he breaks.
You never forget your first.
And he pulls out the next match and looks at it, and he more tentatively strikes it. And of course, it flares up, and he puts it to the end. And he looks at you, and he's just basically holding the match at the end, like he's not sure what he does next.
Oh, you suck a little bit of the flame in. It'll light the end of your cigar.
And
once your cigar is lit, wave the match. You don't want to burn yourself. So
he waves the match, and he draws a little bit into his mouth, and
careful.
He lets it out, and he looks at it, and he does it again. He says, "This is not quite as pleasurable." He sort of looks at it.
It is a different kind of vice that quite a few. Or I do know of one.
My lips are numb, he says.
There, you will have that. You will also have a bit of lung irritation. That will pass with time.
Okay.
There was one Confederate general that used to just chew on them, and I can't remember who it was.
Grant was known to do it, but he wasn't a Confederate general.
Right. Terry's he's specific. That's a Union general, but Terry's speaking of a Confederate general, but you can't think of anyone around. Or he just might have his history wrong. He's not American.
He takes another puff on it, and this time he actually breathes in a little bit, and he begins coughing.
No, not like that.
Yeah, okay. He looks and he sees that there's actually an ashtray there, and he places it in the ashtray with the burning part inside there. He says, "I think I'll just stick with the drink if that's okay, sir."
You're right, lad. I'll finish that one when I'm done with this.
Okay. He said he looks and takes a seat in one of the chairs, and he says, my honor was a bit blemished for being left behind."
I know. I will be doing what I can to mend that for you. If I can make it up to you, I want you to tell me what I need to do. All right?
Well, Father was a bit, he asked me questions about what I had done to lose honor in your eyes.
And you told him you've done nothing wrong, correct?
As far as I knew, but he sort of looks at you. He has this look in his eyes you've seen young men have before. And he says, "Have I done something to offend you?" As if he had basically been searching every single flaw of his being for the past day and a half, trying to figure out what he had done wrong.
No, lad. You've done nothing wrong. I'm about to tell you something that will not leave this room. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
I was worried for you.
And he sort of looks at that. He says, "Do you not believe I was capable of defending myself?"
It is not that. From what our briefing and what our intelligence gave us, this was simply supposed to be a frigate on the edge of Beltan's influence, and I did not want to take you away from your studies for something that I had deemed to be meaningless. But as all things with war and life, don't plan. Plans never survive contact with the enemy. Shouldn't have made that quote, but anyway.
He sort of says, that does make sense. But
I thought
understand. He sort of leans forward, and you can see that this is the kind of look that he might be putting it on for the first time, or if it's not his first time actually with this look, it hasn't been very often he's done this.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of the look of a young man who is beginning to understand his own worth. And he says, understand, sir, that I will shed my blood for you. I have no fear of that. So it would honor me if you also have no fear of that. For if I die at the end of sort of our enemies, defending your body, then my family is honored by that sacrifice. And I will willingly make it.
Terry doesn't say anything for a long moment. He just nods. Just looks at the floor, looks back at George. Does your mother take this into consideration, knowing the vow that I made to her that I would bring you back alive and in one piece?
Yes, she understands it all too well.
Well, then he takes a long drag off of his cigar, lets it out slowly. Then I suppose I worry for nothing. I worry for Fergal and Baldric all the time, but I improve time and time again that I worry for nothing because these lads are tough as nails, and you yourself, I come from the Chan stock. Your life forces are nailed to your spines, are they not? Your Chan household.
If I take your meaning correctly, that is true. We are some of the fiercest warriors upon Barsoom.
No, you are the fiercest warriors on Barsoom.
He smiles at that, reaches out, grabs the bottle, pours a bit more into his glass, sits it back down. He raises it in a semblance of a toast. And he said, to the greatest warriors of Barsoom and Jasum.
Walk across the way, pour myself a glass. To the warriors. Okay. We'll have a clink.
Okay. And then he'll toss his back. And you'll spend just a little bit longer sort of chatting inanely about this and that.
Let me ask you this, George. Mm-hmm. Do you have your eyes on any girls these days? Or are you a dutiful student, as I would like you to be, and studying your footwork? And he'll actually shoot him in a rather accusatorial look.
He sort of smiles. You see that at this point the whiskey's starting to get to his head just a bit. Yeah. And he says, "No, of course I'm studying my footwork."
Oh, really?
He sort of stands up and shuffles through a few stances, fairly well. A little bit sloppily because of the alcohol that he's just imbibed. He said, "But while I'm doing this, my eyes can wander about."
Oh, I would be shocked if they didn't, my lad.
But to your question, no, I do not have a specific lady that I am currently courting or attached to. The mother has many she has in mind.
I may, if you would like, have a letter for you.
Oh.
He'll actually go into his rucksack, and to the very bottom of the rucksack, there is a pocket that is kind of sewn in. It's not a standard issue pocket. It's a custom job.
Just so you know, as you're doing that, your hand brushes against that box that has those letters in it.
Yeah, there's a A twinge
So,
of fear actually goes
yeah.
over his face, and George may or may not be able to pick that up.
Okay.
And he'll take the box of letters out and place that on the table. And George will obviously look on quizzically. Those aren't for you.
He
He'll
nods.
take out a letter. This letter actually has a bit of perfume left on it, because I mean, ever so faintly. Actually hands it over. This is the last letter that I had gotten before I was stationed in Egypt when I'd left France. It's from my sister.
He looks at it. Does it have a picture inside?
It does actually have
Okay.
a picture. If I can, let me see if I can get you an image. Terry will actually be looking at that courier's box of the soldier's letters with a bit of trepidation. But nevertheless, he'll. Sorry, Keith. It'll take me a moment to get this for you.
That's fine.
Continue, please.
Okay. So George looks at the box, and he, as you say, it's not for you. He sort of nods. He takes the letter. He looks at the letter itself. Of course, he can't tell hide nor hair of the writing, but he does sniff it. He says that's a very pleasant aroma. It's not exactly like it, but there's a certain flower that blooms in our gardens that it reminds me of.
That is a geranium. My sister's favorite flower. Her name is Celeste.
Celeste. He cocks his head. He looks sort of out the window into the sky. He says, like celestial?
Like the stars, yes.
That's a beautiful name. So basically the translation because you're speaking English, but it's being translated through your mind. So it sort of came across as star or celestial when he heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, is it very common for your, she is beautiful, he says, as he looks at the picture.
The last line of that letter is a request, and he'll actually recite it from heart. If it does not put you and your person in any harm, or if it does not put any of your lads under you in harm, bring me home someone who is handsome and adventurous. And Terry will smirk, and that yellow stain is a bit of the pollen that she had pressed from one of her geraniums.
Oh. He sort of smiles and looks at the picture. He says, that's a beautiful sentiment. So have you found anyone?
I just look at George with this, fuck do you think, kid? Look.
He sort of smiles. He said, if she were Baton Barsoom, I would court her like the greatest gentleman, be as gentle as possible, and make her love me forever. You can tell part of that is the alcohol, making him a bit bolder than he normally would be.
Yeah. Be advised, young man, she can drink far more than you.
Oh. he sort of smiles at that. He says, I fear, my lord, the drink has gone to my head a bit. I'm sorry if I've offended you.
You have not offended. That's fine.
Wonderful.
She's not here. I won't tell her.
He stands just a little bit unsteady. He says, I think I'll be to bed.
Best you do. Get some rest. I will come for you in the morning.
And he sort of bows to you and gives you a fairly good salute. He's gotten better. and takes his leave to the door and closes it. And you hear the lock click. So, and it's not too awful long after that you hear the rhythmic snoring next door because he's at the bed and he's out like a light.
There's a lad. Saw those Z's.
So,
Terry will not actually sleep that night. His mind is too active with, and he's too at peace with the calm. He doesn't want to ruin it with sleep. Have a bad nightmare and it'll completely screw him over.
unfortunately, in that piece, as he's smells the familiar smell of cigar smoke in the air, bringing him back to earlier days at the college, the university. The taste of the whiskey on his lips lures him back to a time when none of this was a problem. Literally his worst fear was one of the being caught by the headmaster in a boxing match, or having to explain to to one of his instructors the black eye he had from a match the night before. His eyes fall upon that box.
There's in that memory, he is jolted out of his reverie with the shout of Hawthorne. What's wrong with that eye there? Headmaster, I fell out of bed this morning and I caught my eye on the bed knob. I somehow flipped head towards the foot of my bed, and I have no idea. Headmaster, I apologize. Think nothing of it. Yes, I am paying attention to the lecture, sir. We were talking about the early Mycenaean art.
Okay. As I said, as you're remembering this headmaster and the lectures, and in some cases droning on, in some cases actually extremely interesting. I said that box just keeps sliding in there, and in that reverie, maybe you've actually fallen asleep for just a moment. You look over to your right, and you see John Stone sitting there. And he looks at you, his bloodless face, pleading with you.
All right, John, I'm up. He'll actually kind of like he'll kind of like angrily like shout it at the darkness, and his cigarette he's been done with the first cigar, and he's about halfway done with George's as he just frustrated tears this box open, and he will spend the next several hours until dawn reading every single letter of every single letter.
Okay. At first, they're fairly standard. You guys were actually, when you were originally sent to the trenches, you were on the boats, handed a sort of a form letter to fill out as a last will and testament in the case that you did fall. These are similar to that in the way they're formatted out, but little things about these just don't seem to make a lot of sense. Do me a smarts check.
I was just going to ask if you wanted a smarts roll. Straight smart. No, excuse me. D8 and D6 here.
D6, go to.
14.
Okay. After a bit, you realize that in the upper right-hand corner of every one of these letters, there's a number, and there are certain words in these wills that are written as if with a bit more pressure with whatever instrument they were using, possibly gone over a couple of times to make it sort of pop out from the rest of the text.
It's kind of like embossed, really, with that.
Yes, embossed or bolder hand in those very specific places.
Terry will run his finger over the back of this so he can actually get the shape of it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's that whoever did it pressed in harder. Each of them has at least a couple of words like that. And when you start actually looking and putting the numbers in order, you start realizing that the bold letters, but the bold words begin to actually form stuff, form a message.
Terry will actually he'll have a whole table to himself,
Okay.
and he'll like he's putting together like a jigsaw puzzle, like
Okay.
letter here, and then he'll just kind of.
There is a little small drawer, and you see inside that there is a what you come to know as the version of Mars's pen, basically. It doesn't actually, you have to actually dip it into a inkwell, but they have a reservoir built into it, and a few pieces of paper. So you could actually use that to sort of maybe write out what you're seeing.
Yeah, he's going to. He's got several hours. He actually checks the horizon, actually, see how much time he's got.
Okay. It's still dark when you start writing these things out, but by the time you get it all sort of puzzled out and such, you're noticing there's a very, very slight blush on the horizon, which means that it'll be dawn in less than an hour, and you have this laid out before you.
I take another long swig of the bourbon there, and I begin reading.
It says, Sergeant Hawking, we are being taken from this city that we now know as Zodonga, which is actually two separate words. They were added together.
He snorts.
to a place to be executed, I believe. A place called the River Is, where we are to be sent upon a journey to some goddess. Issa being her name. I do not know how long the trip will be, but, and then the last part in bold, the very last one is from Beauchamp. And it says, but we die as Englishmen, God save the King.
Death or glory, boys.
Or sorry, death or glory.
He'll just take a long inhale, let it out slow. He'll just kind of.
You also notice that as you're doing that, you sort of notice that the only one that's dated is Beauchamp's, and based on if he is keeping time each day being the same that day as he would be on Earth,
right?
It has been about 4 days since this was written. If that date is the date he wrote it, which you would think there would be no reason why it wouldn't be.
And Terry will crunch the numbers of possibly a Zodongan frigate as the crow flies, actually coming to where we met them, and then when he extrapolates the time to figure out, all right, they could possibly still be in the bowels of that city. He takes no small amount of solace there.
If everything's the way you said, you've seen these craft move, you know that basically Zodonga is about 1,200 miles away, maybe. It would take them about 2 days to get to where they were at.
All right.
Possibly 3, depending on how fast they were going. But yeah, that would have matched up to us about 4 days ago. So
with
good
that
enough time.
Sorry, Keith, go for it.
Been enough time for them to gather letters together, place them on the ship, get to that location, and then you retrieve it.
With that newfound intelligence, Terry will actually, if he was going to catch a power nap, he's not going to now. He's going to find whatever that passes for a shower. He will bathe. Mm-hmm. He'll trim his beard. He'll do whatever he can to trim the stray hairs of his auburn flaxen mane there, and
all those necessities were there. Of course, the shower is that one that uses the
vibrates
the vibration. Yeah.
With that, when he's done, he'll actually put on his uniform again, his
Okay.
uniform, his harness, his Union Jack, and
Okay.
very lovingly, very affectionately tie on his goldenrod scarf again. He'll
Okay.
actually go out and stand under the stars in the open air, possibly walk by the night watchman with a cigar.
As you get up to the on the main decks, of course the breezes, the cold that you're used to from Mars at night, gives you a slight shiver. But you become more used to it than not. As you get to the deck, the main deck of the ship, the sun rises and sort of bursts upon the scene, highlighting the smoke coming from your cigar. And before you is a city. At first, it takes you a moment to realize that this city is not currently occupied. It seems very, very old, as if it's not been occupied for a long time. Below you, you do see another heliumite ship already on the ground, and realize that the ship that you're on is beginning its descent as the captain comes out on deck. A refreshed Bell Thor's also joins you, and she says, yeah, my grandfather's already here. The captain gives you a nod of greeting and doesn't comment about the cigar. And she says,
does not comment
does
about
not.
it? Okay.
And Bell Thor says, I see you found my grandfather's gifts.
They are very well received.
I'm glad. He
Good morning, my dear. How did you sleep?
Oh, very, very well. He says, he told me that you would enjoy these things, or those and she sort of motions with her chin towards her cigar.
Oh,
her nose sort of wrinkles a little bit.
Very right. These are great.
I don't see what the pleasure of those is.
It's an acquired taste.
The smoke burns my nose every time he lights one of those up in the palace, and the scent lingers for days.
Yes, that's Terry will actually use what would be the period slang for hot boxing a room. He'll actually chuckle at it.
Okay. She sort of smiles as the
supposed to stand in like a draft so it doesn't harass anyone.
I'll have to make sure he knows that.
Well, don't tell him I said that. Yeah.
Well, of course not. I will act as if it's my idea.
You're a sharp girl.
Smiles. You notice George at that point coming out on the deck. He's dressed sharply. His hair is in place, but he blinks several times at the light, as if maybe it's a bit intense for his eyes. And then he sort of straightens himself and strides out onto the deck boldly, even though his eyes seem to be a bit watery. And he comes up and says,
mate?
Sir, I slept very, very well, but I woke up this morning with I'm afraid I may be coming down with an illness, sir.
No, that is what we call a hangover. Have yourself some water. You'll be all right.
Aye, sir. He motions, to have someone bring a bit of water. He chugs that back and he says, I'm already feeling better, sir.
Good.
Do you notice that Bella Thoris is looking him up and down?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat surreptitiously, but,
he is a handsome young stallion, isn't he? I mess up George's hair and I kind of push him while doing it.
Okay. He sort of looks up as if like, what? And looks at her. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. He gives her a bit of a bow. And she sort of smiles at that and says, good morning, Washington, is that what they call you? And,
I just beam at her.
He looks up and says, that is what Sergeant Hawthorne refers to me as. It's a play upon my name, George Reed. And she looks and says, you're Jeddak Bo Reed's nephew, yes? He says, yes, ma'am. She goes, And she turns around and looks back down to It's a beautiful day today, isn't it? As she leans forward, emphasizing with her curves as she does so.
I kind of like nudge him in the elbow.
So he says, "Oh, sorry, sir." He looks. Obviously, he was looking at those curves fairly intently as you do that.
Answer her, boy.
Yes, ma'am. It's a gorgeous day today. Yes, beautiful day. And at that the ship comes to a gentle landing, and the boarding or the expedition party begins to assemble. The captain looks over and says, "We're here," and she nods and looks over at you and says, "He'll be there," and she points. And at the you've landed basically outside of the city and near the walls, and you see a huge hole in the side of this wall that's tumbled down into debris. Just past that, there looks to be what looks like nothing less than a massive version of an arena, like you've seen in illustrations of the the Colosseum in Rome. Tiers upon tiers of seats above, and open place below.
Is Belle Thoris staying on the ship? Is she directing us off of the ship? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, literally the ship landed. They ripped down the ramp, and no one has left.
Okay.
So by your directive, the two of you will meet by yourselves and your second.
I direct George to start descending the ramp. When I get to the top of the ramp, I'll make sure George is a good 6 or 8 feet away. And
Okay.
I say, Belle, dear.
Yes.
The young prince of Beltan would like me to inform you that the day absent your smile is a pale shadow.
And she sort of smiles at that.
He'll give her a nod. He goes, "We'll be right back, my dear." And
Okay.
he'll walk down the ramp.
She definitely has a smile on her face at that.
I want to actually let me take that back here. I want to say that loud enough to where George hears me, but not entirely. Like we're talking about him, not to him.
Okay, you see his back sort of stiffen for a moment. He pauses, but then he sort of straightens his stance, and he strides down, and his foot lands upon the ground with a determination that shows he may be a great warrior very soon. And his footsteps are very specific.
I'm gonna pass him, and I'll as I pass him, I'll mutter to him, "Like I promised you nearly a month ago, I'm going to turn you into the most vicious Red Martian fighter that this world has ever seen."
Okay. He nods.
You better impress the girls while you're at it. And I'll push him again.
Okay. You push him, and normally we cause him to stumble, but his footwork he actually has been working on. He is able to turn it into a twirl. And as he does, he turns and bows back towards the ship and waves, and then twirls around again and follows behind you in your wake.
That's my boy.
You come over this rubble, and it's actually fairly easy to get up it. It looks as if maybe it's been not worked so much as the stones have been shifted to make it a more stable surface to walk upon. And as you top this ramp, you see inside this big open area signs of occupation, not recent, but not in the ancient times as before. There's a bit of cloth that flutters from a pole upon one of these the tiers. Looks like a place that may have actually been, well, what would probably be a throne, if you would call it that.
Whose heraldry is on that banner?
The heraldry is it's not one of the cities. But you've seen the wind blows, you see the symbol that reminds you of the Thark.
Okay,
although
what
it's
color
slightly
is it?
different. It's a greenish color.
Okay.
It looks as if maybe the material itself is green, not necessarily even dyed that.
But Terry commits that to memory and keeps going.
As you walk out into the middle of this area, you notice two figures. The sun is actually rising behind the opening, silhouetting them. One is normal human stature, as you would expect. The other one is a good head and a half taller than the tallest green man you've seen in your life. And as you walk in, George stops at the edge, looks at those figures, and he says, by custom, I should remain here, sir.
Best you should.
And he looks up, and you see him swallow hard at that silhouette. And he says, please don't, take care of yourself, sir.
Don't worry, I've already told your aunt that I would bring her the head of John Carter. And I'll say that sarcastically, and I'll just keep walking.
And you actually see a look of actual horror on his face.
Oh, shit! Asshole puckers.
And then it sort of dawns on him that you're probably joking.
Yeah,
He's seen you do this kind of stuff before. And he sort of relaxes a little bit.
Yeah, I fuck with the guys like this, and it's bad.
As you walk in, the smaller figure begins to also move down. As he comes into the light, you see a gentleman that's probably, to your eyes, in his late 40s. His hair is tied back in a queue, similar to yours. Shot through. It's sort of a dark brown shot through with gray here and there. He has the tan of a man who spends more time outside than he does inside. He's wearing the colors of helium. His clothing is very much red Martian, but swinging from his hip is a cavalry saber that you've seen similar to. It is a true cavalry saber from Earth. The pommel actually has the workings of the the Confederate States of America, CSA, stamped very prominently in it on the brass pommel.
You still got the yellow tassel on there, or is that faded with time?
Yes, the yellow tassel is there.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
This blade has been well taken care of.
It's probably red now for helium.
It's the yellow. It is the yellow hammer yellow. The very specific color of Virginia's cavalry. His eyes are blue and very, very sharp. Obviously, he's taking in everything. He comes to basically about halfway between you guys and stops.
I'm gonna walk up to about 10 feet,
Okay.
about 7 to 10 feet. Talking distance, but not shouting.
Okay. He looks you up and down, and he says, "Sergeant Terrence Hawthorne, I assume."
Good morning, Captain.
And good morning to you too. Did you enjoy the bourbon and the cigars?
I did. I thank you very kindly for such a gracious gift.
It's been a small thing, but I understand.
I've only had such a thing once, many, many years before.
Yeah.
About 4 or 5 Christmases ago now.
Christmas. I remember Christmas. It's one of the few things I miss. So he looks around. He says, "Just so you know, I don't necessarily stand on formality too much. Would you be so kind as to just sit and talk with me man to man for a bit?"
Of course. I'll just kind of like motion to like a couple bouldars nearby.
Yeah. There's a couple rocks not too far by. He goes over and sits down, pulls out a cigar from inside of one of his pouches and lights it up and looks over at you and reaches in and pulls another one out, hands it over to you.
He
says, "So how in the devil did you find yourself upon the surface of Barsoom?"
Fuck me. That's a long story, mate. We were... Well, what year was it when you left Jasum last?
The last time I walked on the surface of Earth was the year 1907.
All right. The current year is 1915.
His razor nods.
Europe is embroiled with a war with Germany. He then corrects himself. The same country that you would know as Prussia.
So did you by chance someone insult someone's mother or cousin, or was it the same thing? You know, all those royalty and such, they're all intertwined and such.
No, politically speaking, is supposed to be two large political super blocks holding each other in check in Europe, and one individual from Austro-Hungary was assassinated in the street, and which led to a domino effect of now Italy has joined the war, France, Germany, England. Short time afterward, the Ottoman Turks, he'll go on to explain the Middle East, Egypt, Arabia, their empire. Oh, okay, all right then. They got into it, and we dug in. Quite honestly, it's the most insulting way to fight a war. Is you dig into a trench and then shoot at each other from cover, and then charge up over the top, and then straight into machine gun fire. It's a mass ritual suicide. It happens every few days.
It sounds similar to a few battles I was involved in back in the War of Northern Aggression.
Mm-hmm. How did you like those Enfields that we sent you?
Yeah, they worked passably well. So he sort of smiles. As a matter of fact, I still have, well, back on, I don't have it. My protege upon Earth does, hanging above the mantelpiece there in the old family home.
Good.
So where does the United States stand in this war?
They're staying out of it.
Sensible.
It's not your fight, mate.
Most definitely not.
But I will
Sounds
say
like they finally had their fill of it.
My friend James in New York says he wants to enlist. He wants to fight now. He's French by ancestry. He comes from the house of de Bunce.
Yeah. Well, my family's they're Scotch Irish by descent. A bit of English mixed in there. I'll tell you this though. When I first heard that more men from Earth were on Mars, I worried, because the last time that happened, bad things occurred. That's why I went back in 1907. There was a group of them that showed up here. I guess it had been 1904, I think it was. By the way, that date, 1904, rings a bell for you. He said they were up north. They apparently appeared somewhere near the polar regions. You might not believe this, but there's a jungle up there. And, well, one of the fellows wound up making as far down as Hoth, I believe it was, he made it to.
Mm-hmm.
But that was before he passed on. But he said that a couple of fellows had been picked up by some Zidongans, and they had found something. I don't know if they brought it with them, or if it was there when they arrived. But either way, that seems to be how they had arrived here. And I was thinking that when I first heard that more Earthmen showed up here on Mars, well, I was afraid the Zidongans had figured out how to operate that thing, and maybe recruited some folks to fight against us. He looks at you and says, "That happened to be the case?"
He'll
there's not really any kind of accusation in the way he says it.
he's
very much a
legit
question.
asking me a question. Yeah.
Yes.
We were stationed at the Battle of Gallipoli, and then the column ahead of me charged up this beach and then into the fog, and they disappeared. Then my lads came in some short time afterwards, and from what I understand, my column and my major were captured by Zidongans, and they're currently being held prisoner. And from what I understand, they're being forced to take a trip down a river known as Is. And
He gets a very concerned look on his face.
Terry takes a hint and he says, I'll be very frank with you, Captain. If I could grind Zidonga to dust, I will.
Well, he sort of laughs a little bit, takes a draw off his cigar, and he says, "You know, I'd like nothing better than that myself. I've been looking for a good reason to stir up a little bit of dust."
I understand that you're
says,
a born fighting man like myself, of course.
That I am. If I were to, say, leverage the entire navy of helium, and if my friend up there, and he motions toward the figure that now that where you're at, you can see is a very, very big green Martian. A few scars here and there, chip on one of his tusks. He looks like he's been through a lot.
Is that the Tars Tarkas Jed of Thark that I've been hearing of?
The very one.
I'll stand and give Tars Tarkas a smart English salute.
Okay. He gives you the green Martian salute back and sort of nods at you. That's all four arms crossed in front. He says, I can have him get his thoughts together, and we can start marching north, heading toward the Donga in, say, a week, 7 days from now.
I understand that your blood boils just as much as mine does when Zidonga is involved. I, however, you actually see a little bit of trouble on Terry's face, and he'll just kind of play with his yellow scarf, and he'll actually just kind of like kiss the hem of it. I'm very beholden to the city of Beltan, and I do not speak for Beltan in any way. I am a mercenary for her, or maybe a little bit more emphasis on her than the city itself.
I can understand how these red Martian women can inflame a man's passions. Trust me. More than any other man probably can say. I can say I've done more for a red Martian woman than I have ever done for an Earth woman.
Captain, I need to know. Tell me something very frankly and honestly. Are all the Thoris women beautiful?
Well, of course. They're all absolutely gorgeous.
It is just that consummate beauty and grace and poise. Does that come from your wife, Deja Thoris, or does it come up higher in
from what I understand, her mother was a great beauty as well. Although I never had the pleasure to meet her. She passed away before I arrived.
Oh, God's above us.
But I understand that you have a tie to this city and this woman. But soldier to soldier, your men are in danger.
I am aware, fully aware.
I'm going to offer you the ability to rescue them, or at least, if you cannot rescue them, to exact revenge in their name. I've heard. I've met a few Englishmen great warriors, great men of honor.
We do all right.
I cannot see a man in your position leaving a fellow soldier in a position that your men will be in very soon. The River Ist, that is, at one time, that was a religious pilgrimage for the people here on Mars. When they would be at the end of their life, they would go to this River Ist. They would think of these boats that were left scattered up and down the shores.
And then the Therns would bag them up. I've asked all of these
Yes.
questions. I'm well aware.
Your men's fate, if they were to arrive at the bottom of the River Ist, at the outflow into the land of Is as they call it, will be quite horrible. They'll be snatched from the boats either by these great white apes, which you may have heard of,
I have
and
seen
ripped to
some.
shreds,
Mm.
or there are these things that we refer to as plant men, great
He shivers at that. Ugh.
great lumbering beasts with, well, the best way I can explain it is like the trunks of elephants. And these latch onto the body, and while the person screams his pain into the air, sucks the very life from him, along with the juices, leaving nothing but a husk. Sometimes I've seen them leave a man weakly struggling, still alive, is so dehydrated that he can't move. And then the Banths and the White Apes come and take the time. That's the fate of these men.
How long is the River Is?
The River Is, depending on where they drop them off at, would take them at least a week, maybe 2 to get to flow down. But if they're leaving from Zdanga, it should take them at least 6 days to get there in the first place.
Then I suggest we find a way to intercept them.
Well, as I said, I can mobilize. I can send a few forward, but if your people can get a force together to head north, you'll probably be closer than we will. We can meet you there. We can take on Zdanga if you want to. Keep them from intercepting you. It'll be up to you to rescue the men.
Will Beltan owe helium for this?
Oh, no. No. This is one man assisting another.
This is an agreement between you and I.
You and I alone. Nothing owed from Beltan, nothing owed to Beltan. If they wish to join us, it is on their own honor.
It's my personal belief as a humanist that I need to save English lives, and I need to preserve the ones that are under me, my two lads, Fergal and Baldric.
Oh yeah, you have a loyalty to your men. The oath to the king that you made would basically say that you need to preserve Englishmen on Mars because they are England here.
Right?
And each
he's
life lost
not
is
fighting against that fact.
Yeah. So yeah, this would be, if you're being offered assistance to fix that,
Then by God, we will fix it.
Yeah.
John, I think we're at an accord. May I call you by your first name, John?
if you wish so, if you don't mind me calling you Terrence, or is it Terry?
My friends call me Terry, old boy.
Well, may I call you Terry as well?
You absolutely can.
You honor me, Terry.
Now, because we have women in our lives, John, are you going to need to ask your Dejathor's permission to do this, or does she give you leave?
He sort of smiles. He said, "It is much, much better to ask forgiveness than permission."
I don't think I have that luxury with
He
Bochan.
grins. He said, "Let me tell you a secret about Martian women. They very much appreciate boldness of action, boldness of decision. So my suggestion to you is go back, tell her your men need your assistance, and you would like to have hers. And if she does not wish to give it, then you will go with what you have."
Just a few belts of ammunition and my lads with me. Oh, come hell or high water.
Oh, if my experience is anything like yours has been, I'm sure you'll have some locals that have decided to hitch their wagons to yours, if you will.
Yeah, my lad Baldric has this idea that he would become the Jed of Thark in Beltan, and I'll tell you, John, he's an oily little tick of a doctor. Small and sickly. He's devious, though. He is the most sneaky cunt I have ever come to know. But by God, damn him, I think he can actually do it.
Well, if he can, he's going to be find himself with some very loyal followers. If he can't, he won't have to worry about it.
If I his bout is well. He just kind of looks at the sun. Shit, I think that bout's happening right now. Well,
No, the Tharks always do that sundown.
Oh, is it at sun? Oh, then we have plenty of time. Well, and Fergal, he's
Fergal, Irishman.
He is. Oh my God! By the blood of Christ, Corporal Fergal Maguire is the toughest Irishman I have ever come to know. And I mean, he took on one of these big Zidongan like farm boys, like the hay bale throwing boys, like the kind that.
Well, I'm familiar with them. I've seen a few of them. Not often do you see one like that here. They tend to be a little slighter than us.
The 1-2 fisticuffs, and the big lad was on the ground with his face smashed.
I'd be very interested in seeing him do that. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and head back and get my people ready. Talk to my admiral, get him to get the ships ready to go, and we're going to see how scared we can make Zidonga.
I
keep
do
their
have
eyes
one
on
request
us.
of this.
Yes.
When we're done saving my lads and we join the fight, I want the Jedak of Zidonga's head. It's going to be personal at this point.
It can be arranged, and I understand. So it'll be yours. And we'll make sure he's not roughed up too much if we happen to capture him before that.
Oh, rough him up for me. I just want him breathing.
No.
Oh.
We'll treat like a perfect gentleman. So he's ready, and thinks he's willing to face off against a fighting man of Earth. I'm pretty sure you'll disabuse him of his arrogance shortly thereafter as you relieve him of his head.
Of course. Terry will stand and give him as almost as if he is saluting King George himself. The sharpest, most at attention, ramrod upright salute that he can possibly muster. Captain Carter, thank you so much for him.
He stands and goes to attention and gives you a proper American salute with the hand down. And he says, Sergeant Hawthorne. He holds his hand out, takes your hand with a very firm, manly shake. And he says, God go with you.
Of course. And Godspeed to you, old boy.
Yeah. And with that, he turns and heads back up towards his companion. He yells out, "Tosh Takas, we got a fight!" And you hear from above the following sound of this Marsh's extremely deep voice, and he says, "Then let's go about it." He grins.
Terry is now with the Earthman jog. I am passing George at this point. I'm just gonna clap him on the chest. Okay. All right, lad, we got a place to be. We have to prepare. Come on, let's go.
He takes off running, following you. At first, you see a little bit of alarm from the ship as you land literally at the gangplank.
As I bound up it now, yeah.
Yes. And is something wrong?
No, we need to be back at Beltan immediately. Your
Okay.
grandfather, I'm assuming I'm speaking to Bell Thoris.
Oh yeah.
Bell, your grandfather is literally perfect in every way for a Yank.
She grins and says,
And
"Well,
I think his smoking habits will actually change for you now, dear.
okay."
George, he'll actually turn
He
around.
comes. He comes charging up the gangway, a bit out of breath, but sir.
George, give Bell a kiss on the hand and get yourself ready for we've got a fight.
Okay.
And I'm
He
deadly
nods.
serious with him right now.
He nods, holds his hand out to her. She smiles, puts her hand in his, and he does so. And then she looks at you and says, "Sergeant Hawthorne, would you do me a huge honor?
Of course. What is it, my dear?
I need to be transported over to my grandfather's ship. Would you do the honors for me, please?"
Do you want me to escort you?
Well, she holds her hand up and she does this. She goes,
Sock.
"Yes, that is the word."
He just holds his arms out, princess style.
Okay. She puts her arm around your neck and sort of hops up into your arms. And
From
she
where we're
giggles. She flat giggles like a little girl about to go on a ride.
I'll look down at George and be like, all right, lad, watch this. I actually, from where we're standing, all right, so we're on this dreadnought right here.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm assuming we're somewhere in the middle of one of these big long tubes.
Yes.
And well, just for the sake of dramatic scene here, the top is more open than this picture is. So we've got Sky. Terry is actually going to kind of like squeeze her a little tighter to his chest and be like, all right, hold on. And he bum rushes this, like he is charging from one trench to another.
Okay.
And he gets to the end of this and leaps.
Okay.
If
You describe this huge arc, and you land about 120 feet out. Literally at this point, it's almost you like running. You hit with one leg and launch off, and you start doing these bounds. It takes you about 3 bounds to get to the other ship. And
do I beat Captain Carter before he gets there? Are they walking?
Oh no, they have just gotten there.
Okay, we meet there.
you land, and he's sort of standing there on the deck with his arms crossed as you come to a landing, and she is just laughing. She's been laughing the entire time. And of course, you set her down, and he looks at her and he says, "Granddaughter, we are not amusement rides."
I could not resist, Captain. She is.
Yeah, the way he says it though, it's like he's trying to be stern, but just the grin in his face. And he says, "Thank you, Sergeant Hawthorne."
I take her hand. I give her a kiss.
Okay.
Will you be coming back to see your cousin, or should I give her a message?
Send her a message that I'll be coming to see her soon. But I wanted to say hi to my grandfather, and I believe I'll be heading back to Helium with him.
All right.
So, don't worry, my men are coming with me. You see her men literally running as fast as they can coming this way.
He will bid the rest of John Carter's retinue a safe journey, and he'll jog past her retinue.
Okay.
Morning, boys. I'll see you later.
As you bound yourself back, the curtains will close there for a moment on you, and we go back to see Fergal that morning up with the Redmond engineers, the one fellow. What's his name? Court Kalnick is there as well, the engineer for Beltan, getting things together to start repairing the ship. What do we see in Fergal's mind as he's looking at his ship starting to be repaired, her wings starting to be respread.
So the night before, Fergal had gone out for drinks with Hawkins. He just got a little ossified, but Hawkins was fucking scuttered, and he had to carry him back to his bunk. But after that, he made his way to where the prisoners were being held. Where were the prisoners? Were the officers with them?
The officers were actually being held in a building just inside the walls of the city.
Okay.
The non-coms were being held in a compound not too far from there. They could actually see the compound from their windows. They're basically in apartments, not really in cells per se. They've been put on their own honor.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So he went to go speak to Moss Baal then. Would he be allowed? He'd be allowed to do that?
Yeah, Moss Baal basically has been almost, well, unless you told him not to be attached at your hip.
Oh,
So,
I see. All right. So I didn't know if he had to go to with. So he went out for drinks with us.
yeah.
Then?
So if you vouch for him, they'll let him go with you. So.
Okay. So I am going to try to loosen him up, ply him with drinks and see if he.
Okay. He starts opening up to you, and he tells you he's been in his dog and Navy since he was old enough to hold a wrench. Grew up in it. He was a deck boy for his most of his youth, and all he really knows is airships and how to keep them in the air.
So how does this make you feel about your ties to your family and your clan?
Don't really have a family. My family was the Zondagan Navy in that ship out there in Motions. That's where I grew up.
So there's bitterness, and he's tapping his.
There's a little bit. There's a little bit. They sent us out to take on you and your lot, and didn't tell us that there was a helium dreadnought in the area. So we got caught with our pants down. That's the captain's fault, though. He spits on the ground. He says that. He said, I heard you put your fist through his chest.
I did. I used a little more force than I thought I needed to.
Well, thank you for not doing that to me. He sort of reached up to his jaw where he clocked him good. And his nose is swollen, but it's it's been set, and
he's kind of talking like that.
Yeah, he's kind of talking like this. Yeah, he doesn't really have his voice is a lot higher pitched than he normally would be. So
you obviously could tell that I am not from here.
Oh yeah, you're like the fellas that they had back in Zodonga. So
yes, those are my countrymen.
He leans forward and says, "I never did trust that third. He's too slippery, too slimy."
The third,
the white fella. He's I don't even know his name. I just know him as the third. That's all we're ever actually.
Is he talking about Beauchamp?
No.
I'm sorry.
That there's a race called the Third, the White Martians.
Okay.
There's actually one on the Thief Velas on the council's the Third.
I got you.
Yeah, he's the one that brought your fellas here. He sort of nods. I hear he used an ancient sorcery to do it too.
Interesting. Well, I
Something
realize
was
this
found up in the north in the jungles some time back.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a weapon?
I don't know if you call it a weapon or not. It's more like I only saw it the once. So whenever they had us out and used it out there, I guess it's been 3-4 weeks ago. Before the sun set, they had to set it up on the front of the ship. It was a box, and he holds out his hands. about yay big, and he did some things to it, and something arcane, and I'm not sure what it was, but it caused this ray to shoot down upon the ground below us, and it causes fog to rise up. The next thing I know, there's a whole army of men charging through it, and they open fire. But
shit! Baldric or Farragle is like Baldric, because I would imagine we're still kind of talking over drinks, and
you're probably pretty.
What do you want?
One of those Therns. The Therns. The what?
Yeah.
They're bringing us through, right?
Well,
At this point,
I think that's what happened. Yeah, but
at this point, Fergal, you notice that I'm adding 2 things of powder to my drink, mixing it up and drinking it, looking at you.
Your eyes are very, very wide at this point. You're drunk, but you're very aware that everything around you.
They are dead next. I will slaughter them and tie them to the nearest flagpole with their entrails.
Last I heard, I mean, they were marching them north to the River Is, going to send them down it, because that's where people go when they die.
Hey, Fergal. Want to murder somebody? Want to murder these Therns or whatever they're called?
Yeah, but not right now.
No,
you can't do it right now. You're drunk. No, you're fucking.
I'm not drunk. I am feeling great.
Yeah, just because you're twinkle toes right now doesn't mean that we can go take on and.
I finish off the drink, shatter the glass. Yeah, let's take them out next.
Several Green Martians jump to their feet and start cheering with you.
So I would imagine that winding down the evening from there, I kind of try to just be friendly with him to try to gain confidence with him, and then if he would like to, I would allow him to go spend the evening with the other officers or the other men. It's up to him.
He'd prefer to have a nice warm bed away from most of the rest of them. He said there are a few men. He said there are a few we could probably trust that wouldn't turn on you, but some of those, I hate to say it, but the Dongans aren't necessarily known for being very loyal from time to time. I mean, hell, look at Blas Moore. He's a Dongan that took an entire fleet away from Zidonga.
Wow. Okay. This is good information to know.
Well, Blas Moore is the current head of military here in Beltan.
So he is a Zidongan expat, I guess.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So he might not necessarily be as trustworthy.
I don't know. I've heard he's of course, all the things I've heard from Zidonga is that he's a treacherous bastard, but I don't know how he'd be at the moment. I've never met the man.
All right. So I would imagine as the evening winds down, sounds like he wants to come to our apartments then and sleep on a guest bed.
Yeah, that's what he'd like to do.
I have no problem with that. He gets to make his bed, though.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
So fast forward. I went in there early with after I poured Hawkins into bed the night before. I mixed up. Do they have eggs?
They have something approximate.
So I mix it up in a cup and I walk and say, "Here, drink this." But I also have a cup of water next to me as well.
Your voice is so loud right now. Grab the cup of eggs.
Yeah. You can hear your
drink this.
Yeah, Hawkins. you can hear your hair growing.
I don't think that combination was a good idea.
You're both have a hangover and you're coming down.
Yeah. Next combo.
What did you do to yourself?
Medic pouch. Wanted to kick the ass of the Green Martian. You know, a couple doses of cocaine mixed with that alcohol. Take
Oh,
the eggs.
Okay.
you actually drink the raw egg?
Yes. Unquestioningly.
It's
Oh.
very gamey.
Oh, God.
It's to the point that literally almost as soon as it hits the back of your throat,
Mm-hmm.
you have a traffic jam in your esophagus. And luckily there's a large, like a waste basket right there because it comes right back out,
Yeah.
along with whatever fluid was in your stomach at the time.
And Fergal just lets loose this big roar of laughter.
I'm going to attempt to punch Fergal in the shin. He is making too much noise.
You can't
right.
because the noise roaring through your head of this flood that's coming out of your body currently.
God, it's a nightmare.
So then I hand him the water and say, maybe more of that cocaine will help.
Yeah, good idea.
We're gonna
Reach
have a cokehead
blindly for
before
my
we're done
pouch.
here.
Yep. So
A str-
scream, yeah.
He's just scream vomiter. He's deafening himself while he's doing it.
Yeah.
As you're leaving, Fergal, you hear the crash of a bottle, followed by "Found it."
Yeah, I might need your help today. So if you can,
The
get
doors, as you're saying this, hang toward the door. Suddenly the door bursts open, and about 5 green Martians come tumbling in. They have weapons drawn. They're looking at Hawkins.
Yes.
Are you okay?
Give me 3 minutes and get the fuck out before I murder you, string you up, and hamstring every last one of you and throw you to the white apes myself.
Okay. You see this.
the whole back.
You see Zint Basur elbow heart guitar in the ribs. But see, I told you he was okay. And they all turn as a group to sort of muster themselves out.
I'm gonna look at my pouch, look at the Theodoses I have left, and go, "This is a stupid idea."
Yeah. So,
Good one.
you know,
Take one of
probably
them.
probably the aspirin that you have would probably do you a little better with that glass of water.
Save this for the fight.
All right. And with that image, our curtains will close on our intrepid adventurers. Join us again next week where we see if Corporal Baldrick Hawkins will be able to keep his head as he challenges to become Jed of the Green Martians of Beltan. We'll see if Sergeant Terrence Hawthorne makes it back to Beltan, and if by his masculine wiles he's able to get Bo Chan to offer him a fleet of ships to assist in his rescue of his fellow Earthmen, and if Corporal Fergal McGuire will actually get his ship back into the air. So until then, have a good night, have a good week. Hope everybody stays safe, and see you next week. Goodbye.
Good night, everybody.